This is SAF Moore, your prison lawyer. This is SAF Moore, your prison lawyer. This is SAF Moore, your prison lawyer. And I know you've been waiting for another dope installment of IGSTS. Oh yes, the waiting is over. This the counterculture to mainstream media bullshit. SAF Moore, I be where I be. You can't see me unless you're around me. You feel me? Let's do this.
I got something to say. No, I got something to say.
You want to hear me though? I got something to say.
But hold up. I got... That's your theme song from now on.
IGSTS, SAF Mode, your prison lawyer with my man
Ron B in the middle.
My man
Ron B in the middle.
My man.
I ain't saying it again.
IGSTS. Hold on. It was on the table. This is IGSTS. I'm SAF Mode, your prison lawyer. My man
Ron B in the middle.
My man
Ron B in the middle.
Hyped up in here. We got
shout out to the convicted fellas doing better than people with no felonies.
We got a special guest coming to kick it with us. Somebody that we gonna keep the name until they come out and tell us what the name is, because it's somebody super special.
Just tell them rah-rah.
Coming in and kicking it with us and explaining to us about restorative justice part, the criminal justice system in Minnesota, injustice system, and also she's going to lay some facts to basically juveniles and their plight in the judicial system. Ron B in the middle. We are
the voice of the voices, the only voice.
And he said it, so it must be a truth. We'll be right back.
against them a second time does nothing to advance community safety and fundamentally undermines efforts to restore people in relationship and in community. And like Representative Mariana said earlier, Minnesota led the nation in 1978 when our legislature established the country's first sentencing guideline commission. The commission's very purpose as a group of 11 individuals is to establish and maintain the rules that judges must follow in felony sentences.
Welcome back. This is episode 21, and we said we got somebody special. I'm with my man,
be in the middle.
I'm about to bring them up so they can talk to you and break everything down. Go right.
We are
voice of the voiceless. Okay, now I can pick the cameras. Now, move your camera center. Move your cup right there. You're good. It's on you. Now you go anywhere you want to go. You're in camera.
Still on camera?
Yup. That's why I like that. Yup. Right. You're still on camera.
Wow, this is fancy. Oh wait. I was like, that's not what I look like.
That's how
I don't have a septum.
You thought that was you, didn't you?
Yeah, for a second. I was like, what?
That's Noel. She works at Hamlin Law. She's part of their she was formerly incarcerated. She works at Mitchell Hamlin as their resident, and she helps with helping people getting out with their driver's license and stuff like that, little legal things. So they had that set up. I was hoping that your dean was going to call us back so we could talk to him about certain things, but maybe if he sees you, I sent him the link.
Yeah, I can say, you can ask me where I went to law school.
No, I mean, he might recognize you too.
It's not Dean Gordon anymore, though, is it? Is it,
I don't know what was that dean?
And Mitchell Hamlin?
Yeah, what's the dean's name that contacted us?
His name is
Dean Gordon is who was there when I was.
No, it's not Dean Gordon anymore.
Because he's like a school flipper. Like he comes in and like makes it better. And then
This guy seems like he's really an activist. You know, he's really for the cause. He seems like he's got the paperwork.
Anthony
Nitwicki? That's him. That's him.
So I don't know him, but if you want me to mention where I graduated from, I'm happy to do that.
That's him.
Well, because we set up a meeting with us, but he something came up.
He's supposed to email me back
and
tell me when he wants to reschedule, but I haven't got an email from him yet for a reschedule.
Maybe you got to reach out to him.
Yeah. People get overcommitted and then they become flaky.
Well, I just figured like he watched a couple episodes and he was like, no.
Well, he probably watched Noel's episode because I told his secretary that Noel did a podcast interview with us. And that was included in the email when he emailed me back for the first appointment. So maybe he watched her.
We didn't fire her, so it must have been good.
Right?
Yeah, I make up more because, like, I definitely flake out sometimes because I say I haven't yet to learn the power of no in terms of like conserving my energy. So like
that could be an issue.
When people are good, like they end up being like in high demand, which like,
you are.
Thank you.
You are. Yeah, don't. So yeah, you impressed me. So
well, I'm glad that was it.
Yeah, you impressed me because, like I said, there was few individuals. Like most of them, I was like, wow, get off the mic.
Yeah, and not speaking with heart. Like, that's the other thing. It's like sometimes people are just reading. I was trying not to just read, but
where you plugging up right there?
I'm plugging up this camera. Just going into this.
But I love that I have East Coast
I already
vibes.
plugged that camera into that.
You know already? Yeah, I'm plugging this camera into all the three cameras are going in now. But yeah, just like, no, it wasn't that. It wasn't like, it was like most of them were reading from like the Donald Trump agenda.
Yes. There were so many. Well, I looked at the lineup because I got on the list real late, which is also why I was towards the end.
Me too.
Yeah, well, I was so excited when you came in because you were like, I'm here in person to speak truth to power. And I was like, yes.
we got to do something about this too. We actually been setting up cameras and microphones and lights and everything for 2.5 hours right now.
It takes a lot because we don't have an engineer.
Yeah, but like I had half the stuff set up already. We taking too long to set up.
Yeah, it's an in-house deal. But yeah, it takes a while.
Taking too long.
Yeah, it's in-house.
I'm getting sleepy right now. I'm just kidding.
Go smoke a cigarette. We about to hit it. All I do is plug these cameras up.
That's why I got coffee.
In fact, you're being recorded.
I know.
Right.
That's why I said what I said because I know I'm being recorded.
And the thing about it, because I didn't know enough about Bo, and I needed to know about her, them enough about what was going on. No, enough about what's going on. I needed it because I wanted to flesh a lot of things out so I know where to go.
But then it take 2.5 hours for us to get that. Ain't that right, Bo? Agree with me.
Well, I talk a lot. So, like, I have no...
Can you take my side, please?
My Libra moon doesn't want to. It just wants to harmonize. Like, I just want to harmonize.
I feel personally like I wanted to know where I can go.
I got you. I get it. I'm just talking. This gonna be all in the funny stuff that we gonna put on TikTok, Reels, and stuff like that. This will be in there. These little excerpts right here, what we're going through right now.
That would be cool. I know my best friend is like, you should start doing TikTok, and I was like, I don't know how though. Like
TikTok is so fun.
It's a time suck for sure.
It gets addicting.
Yeah, I feel like it's shortening my attention span.
I've stayed up all night looking at TikTok.
It does.
Yeah, because I'm like, if you're not funny within the first 5 seconds, I'm done. What's next?
Well, yeah, your attention span is definitely becoming shorter. But Sesame Street started that off, right? Watching Sesame Street.
Oh no, you're not gonna ruin Sesame Street.
all those quick little flashes of skits was it changed our attention span, and then it got worse and worse and worse to now we speak in acronyms.
I know when I said ED, I was like, I'm sorry, like, we don't have enough time.
Yeah, and then if you don't speak in an acronym, people think that you're old. You know, like, ooh, you don't know what this is? Because I have to go look it up. You got enough time. All right. Yeah, you don't speak in acronyms, people think you're old. Because I'll be like, what does that mean? But I got to act like I know what it means. Like, oh, yeah, you know.
No. No. I definitely, like, multiple jobs in a row. I've been like, I'm going to make a sheet I'm going to write down all the acronyms that the attorneys in this meeting are using so that when the interns come on and they feel that they need to pretend, they don't have to, and we have a resource for them. Because in sentencing, that was like a thing. I was like, SOI, SOA, SOE, PSI, like, yeah, it's a lingo.
That too, and some of that stuff I do understand. But it's just like when you're texting and and all that stuff that comes out on texting, you're like, what? You're like, oh, I mean,
that's fair.
Some of the stuff, but it's like, but even like you try to like, so you know, being in school and being and being like in socially, you have to write a certain way in school, but then when you text, you have to. But it's that transformation between the two. It's just very difficult because the sentence structure has to sound right to you and when you're writing, but then it has to also, when you're texting, it's got to sound right to you, but you can't transfer. It's hard to, I don't know, I didn't grow up in it, so it's kind of hard for me to transfer between the
It is. I had a hard time when I was doing like after school programming, and my students, I would bring tutors in. They were usually like middle-aged or like retired white people who wanted to come, and they're like kind of like ripping through my students' essays. And I was like, hey, you need to figure out how to break this down about what the teacher is looking for and not invalidate like the way that people are communicating, because it is like a real way of communicating. Well, like all this stuff is real. They understand each other.
Right. And it is the lingo. It's gonna be how people talk. It makes sense, you know, and a lot of stuff makes sense when you think about it. And then people text so fast, like I'll be like, okay, make sure this, you know, and it's just like when you're texting like 1,000 texts or 2,000 texts and going back and forth, and you're having this argument or whatever it might be. It makes, and it's just, looking at these generations, it's like, and it's going to get scary when you get my age. You're going to be feeling the same way. It just seems like you can see a trend like maybe I can explain it better, like the TV. People who've never seen the TV before, well, that's going to be, it's not it. And then to see that it's not only is taking on wildfire, it's the future, and it's even further. And it seems like I'm at that crest of the technology age, like how things are just like,
it is scary.
Everything's AI. They're talking about virtual worlds. They're talking about all different things.
Metaverse,
all these different things that's going on, and it's like cars that drive themselves. You know what I'm saying? People going to the edge of the universe.
It's super bizarre. No, I did VR with my partner. Well, it was one of their birthday things the other week, and I was so overstimulated afterwards. So it's like,
so I was gonna buy one of those boxes.
Yeah, we went to Rosedale and just like did a like group thing. So I had like, I'm wearing like a computer on my back. It's super hot, made me sweat. And then I've like got this headset and then these like things on here.
Yeah.
And we're like shooting aliens or whatever. And
does it look real?
Like, yes. And then like the thing that really tripped me out was like, we're on a platform, and then they must have blown air, and you look like you're going up, but you're not. But I was like, I had that feeling of like falling, even though I was standing still. And then what was really bizarre is I'm hearing you in space through the headset, but you're also in space with me physically talking, and I know that as well. I'm in two spaces with you. Like,
it's weird.
It's super weird. And then I took it off, and I was like, I'm just like so overstimulated. Like that was too much for me sensory wise. Like I had fun, but I was also like not right for like 60 minutes.
Right. I mean, the people have that now, because I was looking at that. In fact, when DJ Phoenix came, he had one with him. I forget what they're called, but he had the unit with him, and I went to go do some research on it. And I had just saw the unit at Costco, and I didn't know what it was. Like, what is that? And he had it with him, and I did it, and it's just like it's just the start of what the future looks like, right? And that's what I mean by just the acronyms, the wording. It's like watching. If you could just sit at the beginning of the century and just watch how it went from horsebacks to cars. It is. I mean, I'm saying it like nothing, but could you imagine a person? I was reading a book in the joint, and it talked about a lady who saw the first car in Germany, not in Germany, but in Europe somewhere, and she had a heart attack when she first saw the first car. It wouldn't come past her because she didn't know what it was. Could you imagine that? That's what I'm telling you.
Movies were like that, moving pictures. And like there was a train and people would like jump out of their seat because they thought the train was going to
I got a funny story about that. My great-grandmother watched TV. She was able to see TV. She was born right after slavery, was able to see TV, watched the TV show, then asked my mom, like a few days later, like, what happened to that girl? Did she die? She was so thought that it was real that she was worried about what happened to the person on the screen. But you
right, it's like, how can that person be there?
Yeah, or how could that situation just be fictitious when everything has been real? Everything I know has been real. I want my water.
I do want a water.
We can roll now. We ready to roll.
Oh, wow, this is fancy. pH balanced.
Yeah.
You want the big one or the little one?
The little one. I'm saving bacon from that. I'm gonna smoke later on. Try to make this.
I heard y'all talking just now. I got a story to tell y'all about. I seen a documentary on Tatter Smiley. Tatter Smiley is a activist.
Yeah, light in.
What do you want me to do with it?
Move it in. Just move it in. Can't move any further. Closer. Closer. It's useless right there because it's too much. It's useless. Forget about it.
That's as close as it can get.
That's fine.
All right.
Turn it off.
Turn it off?
Yeah.
All right. But Tatter Smiley is an activist. He's a black activist. And he does controversial interviews with people. And his first interview, when he first got into the industry, he interviewed a white guy. And his grandmother seen his interview. It was televised. His grandmother seen it. It was on PBS or something like that. And he called home after the interview and asked his grandmother, did she see it? She said, yeah, baby, I seen it. But his grandmother is so old-fashioned that she said, baby, you can't be talking to white folks like that.
Wow.
And she didn't understand that times have changed and you can ask these questions and stuff like that. And it was just crazy to me that she still thought like that and she didn't know like that. You know what I'm saying?
It is wild. Cause it must like.
Ron, can you lower this camera like that? Lower it down to about right here.
And there's like a legitimate generational fear about like.
More down?
Yeah, it just like I said, it's just to me right there. That's good. To me, it's just the to me, I was just getting at it the sign that this is the times, and it's kind of hard for to be gone for so long and then come back home and see things changed. I mean, I look at like this guy that since I've been down. He's been locked up since he was in his teens. He's like 30 some years old now. D Nice was locked down. He just got out. D Nice just got out. He's been locked down for 30 some years. When he was out, cell phones nothing was in existence.
They still had brick phones when he got locked up.
D Nice, but brick phones was just brick phone. People.
Your phone bill was $1,000.
Everybody's got a cell phone.
Yeah.
Everybody, kids got a cell phone now. So
I felt that movement too, though. Like cause I've been in prison several times, and when I got out in 2002, I was locked up from 99 to 2002. When I got out in 2002, before I went in, everybody had flip Motorola phones.
Right.
Like the gray flip Motorola phone. But everybody didn't have them because everybody couldn't afford them. Your phone bill was $500 and some bucks and stuff like that. When I got out in 2002, I see everybody with cell phones and it baffled me. I'm like, oh. why does everybody got cell phones now? How can they afford them? I'm seeing people walking down the street talking on the cell phone, seeing people sitting on the bus stop talking on the cell phone. Like, whoa. It took me by surprise. And I just couldn't believe it. But then I found out. Once I got that's how much you lose track with what's going on with society while you locked up.
Yeah. Everything's like moving forward and fast.
Throw
Like really
this in the
fast.
garbage, okay?
Thank you, yeah.
My last incarceration, the 10 years I was locked up, I had a cell phone while I was in prison. So I was able to stay up on what's trending and what's new and everything. Cause it was illegal to have a cell phone in prison, but I had a cell phone in prison, and I had a smartphone, and I was able to see Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, Google, YouTube. I was able to see everything, so I didn't lose it. So when I came out this time, I wasn't behind times. I knew how to operate a smartphone and everything.
It's like, how do you keep up with?
Everybody's not able to keep up like that.
Yeah. In college, I interviewed a couple people from the Innocence Project. Somebody from Ohio and somebody from, I'm trying to remember their names, so it's been a really long time. Somebody from Florida. They both had done like multiple decades. And
Florida's bad.
Yeah, that sounded
Florida's
the worst.
bad.
Yeah, this general
Individuals that we have to worry about with this issue.
I'm gonna tell you how bad it is, because I have a relative down there that's locked up right now, and he calls me periodically, and he tells me that they have one officer working the whole prison with over 1,000 inmates.
It's really scary.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that means they have a lot of lockdown.
Yes.
And he calls me from a cell phone. He's not calling me from the landline. He can't call me from the landline because they're locked down so much because they're short-staffed.
What can we do about that?
It's easy. It's simple. Stop giving people so much time and then
For petty crime.
But here's so if you even have somebody
can we expose
who
that?
needs to do time. I was talking to Mr. McGee. He's a PO in Ramsey County, and he told me that I was asking because he's a juvenile PO, you know, and he was we was talking about the whole Dante Wright situation, and he was like, yeah, you know, I was in there, and I had to give them their meals. So what they did, because they did an initiative to reduce juveniles in prison, but what they did, we were smart about it. So when we reduce them, we know we're going to lose COs, but some COs could be POs. So now, not only does he work inside the prison, he works outside the prison.
Right.
So now your supervisor,
You got the best of both worlds.
So you don't have to see. PO don't have to get less hours. Just now become a field officer. It's simple. You just got to be innovative and creative with the institution, opposed to saying we're going to keep it still. We want all these people locked up in the cell. We want all of them incapacitated. But you have to change your conversation too, which they're not willing to speak. What's that buzz? It's the
Car going by.
Okay.
I heard it.
That's what I want you to hear. You hear it loud? Welcome to episode 21. This is SAF Mo, your prison lawyer with my man.
I'll be in the middle.
And we about to bring it to y'all today, y'all. This episode is called A Forgetting Class. Oh, basically, Forgetting Classes. Juveniles and Theys in the criminal justice system. Conversation that nobody talks about. We bring it to you on I Got Something to Say. Ron, We are
the voice of the voiceless,
the
only voice.
We'll be right back. We're gonna have a special guest, and welcome back. This is episode 21. I'm SAF Mo, your prison lawyer, with my man
Ron P in the middle.
We lit, y'all. We lit. We got a special guest, and I was astounded with the knowledge that this individual has. I'm gonna let them introduce themselves, because I couldn't do it justice.
That's very sweet. Thank you for having me on your show. I'm Bo Rara. I use they, them pronouns. I'm an attorney and an advocate. My background is in positive youth development. I did after school programming for some years before going to law school. Graduated in 2019 from Mitchell Hanlon, and then did a couple years of representation of predominantly homeless youth who are trafficked, at risk of trafficking, youth with disabilities, and then I most recently started to work at the Legal Rights Center as their youth restorative justice lead. Anything I share today is my personal opinion. I'm not speaking on behalf of my employer, so that gives me the opportunity to be really authentic with you all. But I am really passionate about youth, and I'm excited to be here. You
know what that means? She's about to let the hammer fall. And like I said, I wouldn't have nobody on this show right now that would not speak the truth and tell you about how the criminal justice system actually works. This position, our positions aren't slighted, but we want to give you guys the truth of the matter, and we don't want individuals to go. I feel personally like everybody feels sitting at this table, like I don't want to have someone sitting in the cell asking the question, why wasn't I told this?
What that means is Bo Rara is finna tell you the whole truth and nothing but the truth without all that rah-rah.
So help them God. You know what I'm saying?
It's true.
So Bo, what I wanted to talk about, what really interests me the most is when you talked about juveniles and the criminal justice system. That really struck me, you know, but mainly when we talked about the diversionary programs that were innovating. I don't know how much you can talk about them and how much is allowable, but can you just tell me about some of the things that they're doing now when it comes to criminal justice and juveniles?
Yeah, I can definitely talk about my role and why I believe in restorative justice. And I use that word, the word justice, I mean, is something that doesn't exist until there actually is like liberation for all people, but that's the language of systems, and so that's the language of the program. My role is to expand the opportunities within the system for youth. So we have a lot of the communities of color and the Twin Cities already hold like restorative circles. Like that's just part of culture. It's not necessarily called that. And these are indigenous practices from the world over. Yeah. But not everybody gets access to that, right? So we know that there's lots of youth of color overrepresented in our delinquency system. I call it the criminal legal system also because you said injustice system. Yes. Language is important. So we have a couple of different places where we're able to, in partnership with people and systems, offer restorative options to youth. And so one of those partnerships is with the Minneapolis Police Department. Okay. So there's a pre-charge diversion program, and then we do for youth who are more deeper involved, so like at the point of disposition or like sentencing in adult systems, we have youth restorative justice disposition program, and we partner with community circle keepers. So like one of the staples of this partnership and why I feel confident in it is that they are folks who hold circle in community. And so the partnership came from that. We don't want like more state folks who are like hired to
do business as usual.
Yeah.
Right.
And so we partner with probation, and so the probation officers so any youth who is on supervised probation and like through a list of criteria are eligible to participate.
How does a list of criteria look, and what crimes would make me ineligible for your program?
So anybody on extended juvenile jurisdiction is ineligible currently, and I'm trying to think, person crimes, or not all person crimes, right? That term is like loose. So no crim sex and high level like assaults are currently not, but like carjackings, like we have those cases because that's what everybody wants to talk about right now.
Are carjackers eligible?
Yeah, she just said. I remember John Choi talking about that.
That's a high level crime.
I think they're trying to go into the community because they believe the community could solve that problem because certain individuals. They know the individuals are doing it,
right?
And they can actually use the community to stop the individuals from stop it from happening,
right?
Yeah.
The misconception about restorative options, a lot of people are like, oh, it's like soft, or like you're just like hugging people, and it's not that. Like it is huge for a youth to sit down with like their family, whoever they've decided to be a part of the circle. The youth gets to decide first of all if they want to do this. Like they don't have to opt in. So
the reason why I'm so shocked about that. Because, like, in Florida, that's a PBL. Carjacking. PBL means punishable by life.
Wow.
Yeah, you get a life sentence for that down there in Florida. So, like, I'm shocked that a PBL, it's labeled as a PBL in Florida, is eligible for your program.
Yeah.
You was just talking about the criteria, and then the individuals the youth were allowed to select those individuals they wanted in the circle.
Yeah, they can absolutely participate because it originally was because we did a pilot program during the pandemic, 15 to 16-year-olds, and then it like expanded to like 14 to 17-year-olds. So it's kind of like we build trust through these relationships that we started off with, and the hope is that eventually this is something that could be offered to all youth who come through. And probation officers are being like transformed by this. There was somebody who recently retired, and then the circle keepers were holding a training for just like community circle keepers, and he was like, can I come, like I've retired and I want to like continue sitting in circle with youth. I would love to like become a facilitator. That's like deep transformation.
That's definitely, I feel like it should be the future. We should be talking about this not just through juvenile, you start there, but I think it should filter its way up to adults. And it should filter itself way to individuals coming out of prison, because I believe that restorative justice, because I participated in restorative justice when I was in prison, and it was not so much for us to about the crime as it was reconnecting us to the community, right? But it's a sense of, I think the main thing about restorative justice is feeling that you're more a part of the community outside of the bricks, opposed to being, because your community becomes inside, but you want to feel like you're instrumental on the outside, right?
Yeah.
So that's why it was important when Russell used to come in. Shout out to Russell. He's still doing it. He's been doing it for the longest. He's been coming in there, bringing restorative justice to.
Shout out to Howard Porter. God bless the dead. He's passed away right now, but Howard Porter is one of my major influencers. That used to come. He used to come to the Ramsey County Workhouse and do a black man support group there. I don't know if they still do the black man support group there, but I was there for some minor stuff. And Howard Porter came in, and he was major influence on me.
Shout out to Russell and the restorative justice, because Russ been coming in, but he doesn't just do the circle keepers inside prison. He does a circle keeper group outside prison, and he's been inspirational and influenced. I'm probably gonna reach out to Russ and get him on the show. Now I think about it, just because he's been such an inspiration in general, and just like I said. So, but you were saying something too, Bo, when we talked last time about how the judges and the prosecutors were trying to still influence that require some type of drug treatment or some type of that. And you were like, hey, no, this is totally a circle. We decide the outcome.
Yeah, so there's tension, especially I think everybody here knows that there's a lot of concern with like what's happening with youth or the narrative around youth right now is like everybody's carjacking, everybody's committing like violent crimes, all these things. Even though if you go to the Hennepin County dashboard and you look at like 2019, 2020, 2021, you can scale it down to the year, there's like actually less crime. There are more like serious crimes for sure, but it's not more numbers wise. But okay, what you were asking me about, yeah, so the agreement when we all came to the table, so like the community partners, corrections, judges, the bench, was that when you order circle, that's the only thing. So there's no like apology letter, there's no you have to go to treatment for chemical dependency. Like the judge doesn't order anything because the idea is that like the community knows, like the circle will come up with what that youth most needs. They will hold the youth accountable through the relationships that they already have. And I think because of what's going on and how people are talking about youth, there's nervousness and a desire to start like ordering things independent of that. Or you get like a parent who comes to court who's like really stressed out and they're like, I think my kid's using, and the judges are like, oh, I want to be able to like order testing. And we're having to like come back and be like, what were the values that brought us all together? Why did we have an agreement that this was something that belongs to the circle? Why is that an essential principle of like what we're doing here?
Why is testing and drug treatment other than, because okay, I'm gonna go back and I feel like personally when I look at everything that involves anything to do with correction, it involves dollar signs, right? It involves individuals with jobs, it involves job security. And when we first met at the Sentencing Guidelines Commission, that's all I heard. We need more jobs, we need more police. We can solve everything with more police, more prisons, and locking more people up, right? So when you start talking about an individual who might be using, to me, it feels as though they want to flush them into an institution, place them in the system, and nothing. The only way you're going to be able to get anything good out of anything like that is if you really wanted to participate in it, right? Some people do find good out of these rehabilitation systems and all this other stuff.
You don't want to rehab until it's time
for you to rehab. So if George ordering you to rehab is what I'm getting at, doesn't make you decide, oh, I don't care what the consequences is, because we talked a little bit about that at the Sentencing Commission about it doesn't matter what the severity of the crime is. People gonna commit crime. It doesn't matter. So by a judge ordering it, their input in all this stuff to me just want me here. When you said that to me, all I see is that the system wants to maintain control over individuals.
Yeah. Well, and I heard in that like a breakdown of trust in what we were doing, because it was huge for them to cede that power to the circle process, and so it's definitely like a scrambling back to get that control.
Yeah, we want our
and
control
I'm in
back.
Recovery, and so I definitely have had strong feelings when coming to these conversations about like it doesn't often happen. It usually takes on average like 7 times for somebody to like get it to stick.
I'm sorry to cut you off for a second, but I just had a thought. But yes. I don't believe all judges are like that. And the reason why I say that is because, like, I remember going to court in Ramsey County, and it was this judge called Judge Campbell. And everybody in his bullpen wanted to go in front of Judge Campbell because Judge Campbell was the most lenient. He had the biggest heart, and he cared about people, and he went based off his feelings. If he's seen you before, and if he looked at your criminal record, but he said, hey, there's a pattern here. This guy needs treatment, or this guy is a hardened criminal. He needs to go to prison for the rest of his life, or whatever. I ain't never seen him give out a life sentence or nothing like that. But he went off his feelings, off the person itself and the criminal record. He judged everything from everything. He judged everything. He judged everything. And like, all judges aren't like Judge Campbell, but shout out to Judge Campbell. Judge Campbell had a heart, and he really like sentenced people based on their character, based on their criminal history, based on how they presented themselves in court, based on their remorse, if they said anything in court about their crime, based on if they pled guilty or not guilty, and wasting the time, the taxpayers' dollars and stuff like that. So I don't believe that every judge is there to, like I was just saying, to corral them in.
No, we didn't. We said our conversation was about this system. The restorative justice was put in place instead of having them go into the institutional, the traditional system. The restorative justice is part. They were using it as a diversionary prop. So instead of tracking them to the system, they said certain individuals. That's why I asked Bo, what was the criteria? And she said, they said this was the criteria. And I was like, okay. As we were talking, they mentioned that institution, because in my mind I'm thinking this is working great. It's probably going to work great. It's probably going to have some knuckleheads. But when the institution gets an opportunity to flex, or when a parent said this individual might be on drugs, judges immediately wanted to order them to go to treatment or a test or some type of evaluation on whether there were drugs or not. And the circle said, no, this is circle business, not a judge. You have no control over the circle. The circle decides that this individual should go. So now what I'm saying, all I was saying as I thought about it, is the institution trying to reclaim its power. Anytime it gets a little bit of a chance to influx and make them go into a system to mess up their lives up. Because like Bo mentioned, it might take you 15 times. It might take you 8 times. It might take you 1 time. But you can't say because this person is using now, they should now get the penalties that involves with running away from treatment.
Right. Well, I think there's like this fear of the adults in youth's lives that like we might be letting kids use and if we're not getting to them sooner, that's a problem. And I would say there are probably youth who have done this program who are using. And like some of them are at a substance abuse place. Some are in that like developmentally appropriate experimentation phase that none of us really like, but like is true. Like risk taking is normal. Risk taking is like what you do when your brain is developing up to the age of 25. We just want to guide youth to like take the right risks and experiment with the right things. And so if a youth is not participating in this program, I feel like that it was a knee-jerk reaction to maybe it's about this, and it's like, but there are probably more youth that you haven't known about where that maybe wasn't the center, that wasn't the root issue of the circle or what behavior brought them there. And so it's like to respond and change an entire program based on this one fear that you have or that you're worried that people are going to say you're letting kids use or you're lenient. And it's like, trust this process, trust the relationships that you've built, trust the values that like brought you here. That's what's needed. And that made me think about, I don't know if you've heard much about Yellow Medicine County. We always talk about the Twin Cities are like more progressive, but like Greater Minnesota has done some of this work.
Talk to us about it. Bring it to us.
Yes, Yellow Medicine County. Shout out to Yellow Medicine County and the indigenous folks who have been partnering with systems there. When we've talked about shaping programs or if we're trying to make something statewide or with restorative practices, they are cautioning us with eligibility, right? Like the criteria end up causing harm because you leave somebody out when you say only some people are deserving of this process. And they're like, we're holding these circles 20 years later doing repair for the harms we've caused in community where we used eligibility criteria. And so I really would like us all to like learn from that because they've been doing it and holding this work longer, and they've done what we're doing in other parts of the state, and they're like, this isn't the way to start. But it's hard because you have to meet systems where they are and what they're willing to do.
Why? So when you speak on eligibility and criterias, then you speak into this Eurocentric exceptionalism, them, they. And I don't mean it. I mean it as them, they, us, against them position, and it makes sense when you speak that language, right? And when you try to bring something like the circle and connect it, and I'm not discouraging or saying anything bad, but it's like the criminal justice system is bad, And for you to try to connect it to it, then they try to apply their logic to it, it's never going to make sense, right? It's never going to pan out or be similar or have the same results, because like you're saying, you're trying to build a house on a faulty foundation. You got to destroy the foundation and then start with that house that you know that works, right?
Yes. So, and that's why there's that continuum of restorative to transformative justice. So some people would critique, you know, like this work. I see myself as a part of harm reduction. So there are youth who are caught
Explain
up.
Explain that.
Yeah.
So you're you know what I'm saying? Some people are ducking because you're hitting them so hard. This you know what I'm saying? We're gonna unpack this for the individuals who aren't at this level right yet. Myself included.
Yeah.
Harm reduction.
Harm reduction.
Harm reduction.
Yeah.
That's the word.
I've never even heard that term. I never even heard that term. 2022. I'm glad you said explain that, because I've never heard harm reduction.
But it makes sense.
It makes sense.
I'm sure I've been thinking about it in some forms, but I had not formulated.
Not in those words.
Yeah, the word yet.
Not in those words.
My shorthand for I believe in abolition, and I believe in dismantling a lot of our systems, particularly the criminal justice system.
Yes, speak.
Yes. And also it exists, it's here today. There are youth caught up in it. So what can I do with the relationships I have, with the skin privilege I have, in the spaces that I can, you know, be in, to divert as many youth out of there? I wouldn't call restorative practices diversion. They should be the foundation of how we interact with youth.
Preach.
But for now, it's seen as a diversion program by people in systems.
Right.
Some who've participated, like those who get the opportunity and have the privilege of sitting in circle with youth, are transformed by that, and then realize that this is like a foundational mindset that shifts us from punitive thinking to relational thinking.
Right.
But yeah, harm reduction. That's what I mean by harm reduction, is like there are youth in now. I don't believe that anyone should be standing in a court speaking on anyone else's life or freedom. Like, I don't think that's appropriate. And also,
they're juveniles.
And adults, right? And adults. I feel this about.
Yeah, well, I question. I'll stop you and question. Then when you say individual speaking, it's just like we talked earlier about alternative motives. Like, I feel like every time I had someone speak on my behalf, what was their alternative motive? Was it to use me as a pawn piece, and I always felt like this public pretender, and I shouldn't use that word, you know, he was more like a slave deliverer. He was always utilizing me to get the DA to
get brownie points
for the DA for his next case, his big case, right? Where he might have had somebody that he wanted to get a better sentence for.
It's a bartering system.
Yeah, so he allowed me to take a plea that was really not that good. It was really more state pro. And I took it because I had no knowledge of what was going on. But in turn, again, like you used Ron B in the middle, it was brownie points for him.
Right.
That's how I felt with every case.
So when he come against this prosecutor again on another case, say, hey, I did you a favor. I got him to take the deal on this case. So I need you to take the deal on this case right here. It's a bartering system.
Right. And you're the bartering piece.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not. And when Bo spoke,
they playing chess.
They playing chess. But when Bo spoke about the people talking on other behalf, then it clicked in my head, okay, but what's this person's alternative motive? Because he's not speaking on that person's behalf to get him off. It's
ulterior motive.
Alternative motive.
Ulterior motive.
But you know, what's that? What's that? What's going on? So that just made me click in my mind that how
their ultimate motive is to climb up the ladder and have job security.
That's what they do. That's how I feel, and that's why when I met Bo and they told me, "Oh, I'm a lawyer," I'm like, "Okay, you're not any lawyer that I know." You know, and I was so grateful that our interaction happened fledgling that now most people, when I talk to Noelle about working at Hamlin, what she mentions is that they're so sealed or so disconnected from what truly happens. They never meet anybody who other than a criminal case.
That's where we need to come in.
That's where we are.
We don't
come in at. That's where we are. That's why we're so fortunate to have Bo come participate.
That's why I want to get inside that school and talk to that dean and let that dean let us in.
Let us in.
Let us in, Mr. Netwicki. Let us in, Mr. Netwicki. Anthony Netwicki. Please let us in. That's why I want to get in, so they'll get. See, they from the outside looking in.
Right. That's all they
from the outside looking in, period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have people in law school who went there straight from undergrad, who've never done anything. Not all, but many. Like, if you think about the stratification that happens in undergrad, like how hard it is to get even just to college, and all of the oppressions that, like, you know, prevent people from getting there.
They don't know what really happened.
Think about your peers, though.
They don't know what really happened.
Think about your peers. Like, I look at my peers and I say, I would never know this gentleman or female if I wasn't in college.
Right.
See, they read my case in the law book about my second-degree assault with a firearm and think I shot somebody. But I just told you earlier today what really happened.
I think it's
I told you the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Ron B, I feel like even if you tell them about it, I don't think they believe you, because in their mind, if you don't know,
but there's facts there. My gun never went off. My gun never went off.
But you're a criminal and you're a liar. Why should I believe you?
Exactly.
And that's how I feel.
That's why we need to get inside there and talk to them and let them see the other side of the law.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
You know how many people I know who said when they're so disconnected, because when it comes to the corrections, the way they find the officers that come in to work, they're so disconnected from the community that is incarcerated that they believe personally that the prison system, the criminal justice system's working perfectly, and there's no reason for anybody to be here. If you did a crime. You did something.
Watch this. Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
When you read the charge, second-degree assault with a firearm, what do you think? What's the first thoughts that come in your mind?
Scary. Yeah,
like somebody got shot, somebody got hurt.
Yeah, like there was a weapon of some sort, and whether it was used or wielded, like it was directed at somebody. I mean, that's like a surface level.
You automatically think somebody got hurt.
Yes. Although I will say that the degrees, even like when we talk about, like when you're talking about attorneys like bartering the cases and all of that, the explanation of what's even before someone, I was doing the criminal expungement curriculum with All Square and their fellows, and we were talking about like let's learn how to read a statute together. What statute were you charged under if you wanted to share? And they like pulled it up and we were like, what do you think the gradient of the degrees is from first to fifth? They're like, fifth is the worst. Like people.
Fifth is the least.
Right. Like, but like people don't even know what values are being acted upon them, or
But why is that? Why do you think that? Like, this is the only place in law that it's all secretive. It's like there's no people don't know. Like when you go into criminal court, it's all hush hush. You don't the statutes or understanding what a statute is, but it's all our rights. And most people don't know, and the wording is so difficult and complicated.
And that's how they trick the jurors. That's how they trick the jurors. They go in there with all this legal mumbo jumbo, and all the jurors know they're regular law-abiding citizens. The only thing they ever seen in law is what they read in the newspaper, what they see on the news, and what they see maybe in their neighborhood. They don't know the law, and they get these people in there. They tell you get a jury of your peers, right?
Right. No.
Guess who's coming to my jury trial?
White people.
You, other people like you, some more people like you, and maybe I get one black juror. I've been through 2 jury trials. Guess what I had? I had one black juror, but guess what he was? The alternate. He never even made it to the stage.
I believe that. I had just had a training on 6th Amendment, fair cross-section of jury. So what you saw is like after the 3 strikes, right? Like where they get to like get rid of any of the visible people of color. Yeah. So everybody talks about that, or like that's becoming more of a mainstream conversation. Yeah. The other piece that we don't talk about is like the voter disenfranchisement and like the jury pool selection. Right. So before you even get there, you've got who's registered, who has a license. Yeah. We know that there's so many people with the license revoked.
The conversation should be like prior to that, like who do you know? Do you know anyone who's ever selected for a jury?
Yes.
And you'd be like, Now, who do you know that was charged with a criminal offense?
Like Arsenio Hall used to say.
Right.
Like Arsenio Hall used to say. Things that make you go,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because a conversation with, like, if I was talking to a person, a Caucasian person, it would be like, who do you know in a jury pool? Oh, I was selected several times. I didn't go. And like I said, I talked to a person, a black person, or a person of color, and ask them, and it'd be totally different. Because I know, maybe I can pick out one person.
I don't know nobody that ever been selected.
Right.
But that should tell you something right off the bat. What's going on in the criminal justice system, and why the juries look so different, and why the criminal justice is so different.
And there has been a lot of research, and they're creating like motions for public defenders to bring to like challenge that before we even get to like the jury paneling. It's like, actually, I'm going to bring a motion to challenge the pool from which you're even selecting.
Right.
It's inherently racist.
Yeah,
Right.
which is crazy.
Yeah.
That's really progressive. And that's really, and judges don't want to hear that.
No,
type
they
of
don't. Minnesota does not
They want to because they don't ever want to be. They don't want to ever fest. The thing about it, the system doesn't ever want the system to fall back on itself and be accused of anything. Like, they love doing accusing, but they hate to have that finger pointed back at them.
My question is this: if you're going to jury trial in St. Paul, how in the hell do you get somebody on your jury trial that's from Egan?
That's a good question.
How in the hell? That lives in Egan, or
is that
Edina or somewhere?
Ramsey County?
Huh?
Isn't it?
No. Egan is not Ramsey County.
Yeah,
it's Dakota County.
It's Dakota County?
Yeah.
Then they're supposed to be on the jury. Because it should be a jury in your county.
How's that happen?
It's like
how's that happen?
It happens that I can't explain. I know in high profile cases that sometimes that's what they end up having to do, like where there's been where
they do the change of venue and all that.
We have to do this. I know that. More fair, but like that I can't.
It's not
explain.
fair. It's not fair. It's not fair.
It's not.
If I got a jury trial in St. Paul, give me some people out the hood.
They're not going to do this. It's just like Bo was saying. They're doing like I mentioned about sentencing guidelines. They accumulate all this data and act as though they're oblivious to what's going on, but they see what's going on. They're scrubbing. They're like that's why I said I was so astounded. Bo was a lawyer because they scrub criminal justice because they use good old boy techniques to get you out. They use disenfranchisement. They make you discouraged. They show you their face, you know, so you're like, okay, well, I was getting in here to change, but I understand now I can't change anything. So they do a lot. So they do the same thing with the jury pools. They scrub it so much so they get the jury of their choice of individuals who are gonna do.
And lawyers haven't been confronting for years, so like I'm not like going to bat for all public defenders necessarily, but these motions on like the Sixth Amendment, like that's been around, like that ability.
What's the Sixth Amendment?
So like you have a right to a fair cross section, right, of your peers. So like people who
right to your peers. Okay. No, I just don't know the numbers. I don't.
No, yeah, and I didn't. In law school, we didn't even really cover this.
And I always say it's against your constitutional right. You're supposed to have your
a jury of your peers.
A jury of your peers, and that's what Bo is bringing up right now.
And people haven't been practicing in those areas. There's so much power to the trial demand and like speedy trial, and the system could not handle if everybody who was in it currently demanded speedy trial. Like it would collapse. And there's been moments where people have done that. Like I know a juvenile public defender in Ramsey who used to work in Colorado, and they did organize, and that was one of the first times where they had a little bit of power with the prosecution. And actually, I don't know if you know this, but the public defenders in Minnesota voted to go on strike in April because of they make $20,000 to $30,000 less than prosecutors.
But how is that even possible?
They're doing the same work.
How is that even possible? Because when I was in Rice County, this jackass puppy, and he was just, he was a quintessential country bunking lawyer who was the Trumper. who was defender of the police department and all this stuff. And I'm not against anybody who
he thought you was guilty already. He formed his own opinion when he read your case without even talking to you.
Who comes out with the American flag on his lapel, and he's just embodying of the good values of American system. Andy Griffin. I go look him up. And he makes like a ridiculous amount of money, right? Because he's the DA, and so I now understand why he's defending that position and defending these reasons. Because first of all, we don't have the right to vote. We do eventually as we get our rights restored. But he can utilize his pulpit to preach this foolishness. And it just bothered me that he made so much money and all his job was, it's like they're emboldening him to continue to convict these individuals.
They can continue to corral people.
Yeah.
Corral the slaves.
Yeah. So is that this April they're supposed to be going on strike?
Yeah, the first week of April if they don't. So the demands are smaller caseloads, right? These people are representing way too many people to do any justice.
Correct.
Like that's just a flaw. Yeah. It's just true. And then the pay disparity. And then I think like safer working conditions, which I didn't read about what that meant for them.
Yeah, what does that mean? Like safer working conditions? You're not inside the COVID jail or anything.
Maybe that. It might have been COVID precautions. I didn't read their platform.
It got to be COVID.
So.
It got to be.
Because they're not.
Yeah, they're not in danger. They have to go in the county jail and visit the inmates and stuff like that.
But
like, it's through glass and stuff like that.
So I don't think it's about that. And I don't want to speak on something I didn't like read the platform. But those two things make sense to me.
The pay. I definitely believe they need to be paid more.
Smaller caseload.
Yeah, more money because they need to be able to have, because usually, speaking out of personal experience, the first time you usually come in contact with your attorney for anything is the day of trial. Prior to that, you could call them. They might come and visit with you and talk to you, but even like the conversation piece of working on the stuff that they show on TV, and that's why IGSTS is very important, because the stuff they show on TV and what actually happened are two different things. You don't have this relationship with your attorney at all.
Yeah. When I was a student attorney at Ramsey County in law school, and I sometimes covered probation violation hearings. And a lot of times there was a public defender who came to court with like a stack of PVs, probation violations, wasn't the attorney of record like for that case, and would just be showing up that day to respond and like go back. The judge would like give a little time like for them to go back if people were being held. Some people were not. Some people were showing up in person out of custody, and they would get ready then on that. And that's just not right. Like that's not right at all. That's not the time.
Yeah. You told me a funny story when we had our phone conversation, and I can't remember what it was, but you were in control of some cases about violations.
Oh yeah.
You told me a funny story. Yeah. Tell the story. Tell it to me.
Well, okay. So like my biggest question once I was in this role was like, what's my discretion? Because you have me.
Who are you working for? Tell us who you work for.
Ramsey County.
Yep.
Hi, John Floyd.
This is funny. Watch this.
So I was like, this is a big deal. I am a student attorney working under somebody else's license. I am appearing in court without my supervisor. He's somewhere else because we are prosecuting so many human beings in this county that we can't have licensed attorneys appearing in all the sentencing hearings. I have like 20 cases that I'm like showing up for to speak on someone's life. And I think that there's not only the job piece that you all are talking about and like people getting a paycheck, but there's also a desensitization that people go through when they do this work regularly.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't normal to me that I was like, okay, yeah, these are plea deals, so like the trial attorney doesn't need to show up. I guess I am gonna go talk about whether the cap, like, right, there's a jail cap, 30, 60, 90, 120 days. That's a lot of time. Like, that's so much time.
Losing jobs, losing housing, bank accounts, everything.
Where the kids gonna be?
The whole deal. That's a lot of time.
Yeah. And so I was like, do I have to like ask for the cap? And it's like, I mean, unless the trial attorney shows up and like has a strong opinion about this, then it's up to you. And I was like, oh, okay. The state requests no further time to serve. You know, like I just would read the plea agreement into the record. Like this is all like my name is on public record doing this. And I was like, I probably look like I'm doing a bad job, but for me, I'm doing a good job. I'm getting out of the way.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And I heard that, I was like, man, I wish I was sitting there at that time. You know what I'm saying? Just to have somebody with like the desensitization of individuals is what wowed me when Noel came and spoke, and how John Choi had to send these gentlemen, females. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure how what the makeup is, but these attorneys to sensitivity training, and I'm like, it just wowed me. I like if anything could floor me was that, because. But then it made sense at the end, because, you know, my question is, how could you give a person 6 life sentences? How could you, or recommend it, or furtherance of it?
This is why I say that all police officers, when they're in the academy, they should go to a culture class. I say that because you got a police officer patrolling this neighborhood right here that lives in Dakota County, Hennepin County, or some other county, and they don't live in this neighborhood. I think a police officer should live in this neighborhood to patrol this neighborhood.
But they have an argument. They have an argument against.
What's the argument against?
The argument is not that it's not an argument against it. It's just what the police officer told me. If you become a police officer, and it's not the far. I don't think the institution supports good individuals. That's just my position, because it's impossible.
I mean, they're not gonna never be able to find a police officer that be able to live in every neighborhood. I get that, but he should live somewhere in the vicinity.
No, he should live in his neighborhood. It's easy to empower individuals in these areas to not even. You don't have. You could be a volunteer. Individual who could patrol your area.
Yeah.
It doesn't. We don't need police officers.
Right. Like
as much.
Brothers empowered. And
anything.
Well, that's where the community comes in too.
The community has always been there. It's the fact that these institutions, just like we were just talking to Bo about the circle, about how the institutions always influx in themselves. We need more police officers. Police officers don't do anything. When's the last time you've seen a police officer come to? I mean, they do come when you call, but they don't. They're reactive. They're not proactive.
They don't come fast enough sometimes.
They're reactive.
Yeah. Somebody got shot recently at an establishment. I'm not gonna name on it. You know, I'm around being in the middle. I don't drop names. But at an establishment, and it took an ambulance 45 minutes to get it. Thank God the dude survived.
Right.
But it took an ambulance 45 minutes to get there.
Yeah, I mean,
he could have died.
Yeah, absolutely.
He could have died. If you'd have came into another neighborhood or to another establishment, like if you'd have came to the Red Rabbit, if you got the same car at the Red Rabbit, I believe you would have got there faster.
It could.
You understand what I'm saying?
It could have been. My deal has always been is just the that everything keeps. They fall back into policing. They fall back into the old. This works when it's not. It's not. Again, it's like everything's evolving. I was speaking earlier, and I was saying, well, if this was a corporation, they would have bankrupted. It would have went bankrupt. They would have got rid of it. It would have been innovation. There's no innovation. This thing's been doing the same thing since slavery, doing the same thing now, and it had no.
It's their answer to freeing the slaves.
It's their answer
to freeing the slaves.
It's their answer to
freeing the slaves.
It's the answer. Their answer to controlling individuals. And removing certain individuals from society, removing their rights, because it does all these things. It also turns the individual. It brings you back into the society, but you have less economic power, right? I can't get those same jobs that other individuals can get. Like right now, if I wanted to be a caretaker for my mom, I couldn't. although I live right down the street from her, because I have a felony and it's my mom.
Right.
Makes no sense.
No, it doesn't make sense. That's why. So yeah, so we do a lot of like community education too. And I'm not speaking on behalf of my org, but like around criminal expungement, and we thought we were really progressive in 2015 because we enumerated or listed out a number of felonies that, previously weren't eligible, but like now it's 2022, like we need to update that list. The list that it was at first, I was like critiquing this list because it had weird things like assaulting a cop's horse or whatever, and I was like, who was in the room, like somebody's son like assaulted a cop's horse when he was drunk?
Who assaults a cop's horse?
Yeah, I was like, but then it turned out it was the last page of the sentencing commission. So the least egregious, or the least worst.
That tells you how old that writing is.
Yeah, and I'm like,
tells you how old that writing. Because when's the last? Well, you see police downtown Minneapolis every now and then.
Ceremonies.
Certain things. Yeah. But it's not all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
That just tells you how old. Keep going. I'm sorry.
No, you don't be sorry. That's like, it's definitely old language. It also means that they didn't think about what would make. So my metric for change is like what's meaningful change within a generation. If all you do is pick like the last things on the list that like most people don't have, if it's not like drug crimes, and people don't want to talk about violent crime, but if we're not also addressing that, like we're not making meaningful change within a generation.
Right.
Because we're not restoring people to the community afterwards.
Right.
If they can't get Section 8 housing, they can't get public benefits, they can't get employment, and no social mobility, no voting. You can't be PCA.
Yeah,
you can't be like
you can't
anything.
even vote. My kids go to school. I can't even vote for the school board. Like, I'm a second-class citizen. Just call me what I am.
You can vote. You can vote if you're off probation.
Yeah, but I'm right now. And so some people get out their paroles 5 years.
Like me, I could vote right now.
No,
but a decade.
5 years. 6 years. My parole was 4 years.
Right.
For 4 years, my kids are going. That's
you couldn't vote.
If my kid was right now in high school, I could never vote in a school board. I could never be part of that participation.
And that's where I come in and I say, well, how come you could count me on the census, but I can't vote?
How come I can pay taxes?
How can I pay taxes?
You're gonna tax the hell out of me.
But I can't vote.
But you're gonna tax the hell out of me, and if I don't pay taxes, you're gonna threaten me. But I can't vote.
I can't vote.
I can't participate.
I went and paid my dues.
Yeah.
I went and paid my dues. I'm out on parole or paper, probation, whatever you want to call it, supervised release. But I can't vote, but I got to pay taxes still.
Right, and then they're going to say you're not an engaged parent because you're not like whatever. I feel like there's like stories there about, and it's like, but you're not seeing all the ways that like you can't participate in voting with the school board. Like
it's just to me, it's you might as well call it what it is. It's a second-class citizen, and they can play all the games they want to play with it. But they're utilizing the felony, and it's almost like you said, Bo. When you look at the jury pool, you have to look at the reasons behind the criminal felony, the felony itself, and how it implicates and how it's targeted, and the individuals it's targeting purposeful, and that removal of power is purposeful, and that's the biggest thing with this is. It's not the crime, because I philosophically speaking on crime, what is a crime?
Right.
Then okay, if it's not that, then truly what are we doing here? Are we just utilizing it for power to gain power over individuals and control them?
And
that's what lawmakers do.
Well, and the subject of what's happening in court isn't even the right question, I would say. It's not like, what is the truth? There is no singular truth of what has happened in anybody's life.
Right.
Everybody who's at an event, whatever it is that occurred, has their own perspective on that.
Right.
And that's why like a circle is like the space to do that, so people can have a conversation.
Right.
There's not like one person elevated above who has no relationship to you. Trying to decide who's got the most accurate truth.
Who's the most worthy?
Well, yes, that too. Really, that's the question.
Who's the most worthy?
Well, the lawmakers, they sit down and they look at.
Who are the lawmakers?
The Congress and all them, Senate, all them, the president, the vice president, all them. But they sit down and they watch what's going on. Now, some things need to be labeled as a crime. Murder, treason, stuff like that.
Yo.
However, it's some things that shouldn't be labeled as a crime.
Possession of
driving while your license is suspended.
No, possession of
a firearm.
Possession of
firearm.
Of drugs.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Well, my deal is
possession of a firearm. Let's take possession of a firearm. If it's in my Bill of Rights to have a firearm, why do you have it against the law for me to possess a firearm?
You got to sit back. You not.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's in your Bill of Rights.
It's cutting your head off.
It's in your Bill of Rights.
Yeah. You
understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, no.
That's constitutionally, I can carry a firearm. Why is it a crime?
Right. No, the list of felonies used to be only things that shock the conscience.
You just take that one.
I didn't know that.
Well, like rape and murder. Like that's what it was.
That makes sense.
And then all of a sudden, what? Theft of a motor vehicle, all of these other things, possession of drugs like you're saying.
It wasn't a crime when they was raping the slaves.
No, but that's
it wasn't a crime when they was raping the slaves.
That's a whole nother conversation, and the conversation was based on they use all types of different degrees to the 3/5 of a human being, right? Mm-hmm. African Americans weren't human beings because they weren't 3/5. Philosophically, they didn't have a soul. That's when they broke down the 3/5 or the 5 things that had. They were saying that's how they philosophically put it. So it all made sense at the time. But my whole deal is that what's going on in America, what's going on in the United States, what's going on is this over development of crime or rules that can be broken. There's all these different rules that you can be, gets criminalized. They're criminalizing everything, and to me, it's just profit driven, right? At the end of the day, because the more you criminalize things, the more people get caught up in court, the more people get their license revoked, the more times they have.
The more funding you got to get at prisons and stuff like that.
It just keeps fueling that fire. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to take a break and segue us into we want to talk a little bit more about a community that Bo can talk about and understand criminal injustice with the LGBTQ, correct?
Half the alphabet. Yeah. Half the alphabet. We're coming for all the letters. We're gonna get all of them.
I'm cool, and I've always just said that just so little been talked about how criminal justice looks, from that lens, how it looks, and just to get a perspective on it, because I want you to tell Bo how you came about putting this rainbow on here.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want you to tell Bo about that.
That's fair.
I want you to tell Bo about that.
We'll be right back.
I kind of put you around, be in the middle, put you on the spot with that one.
I'll say her.
Can I use your bathroom?
Yes, ma'am. Okay. We're only gonna take for a little bit longer, Bo. I'm gonna go. And if we have you read your piece, I'm gonna have you read before we go on tape again. I'm just gonna have you read your piece. You can read the Willie Lynch, and then we'll come back.
I'm gonna go get it out my car while I go outside.
We'll do one more segment, and then we'll be good. And then we can just do like a shout out segment, whatever. And then since I've been down, we can talk this back.
Oh, yeah, you want to do that?
Since I've been down, we can just do that real quick, and then I'll get you out of here. Oh shit.
See, over time,
right?
For us to eat,
it became soul food. That's what soul food is now.
Yeah.
Yams, everything that they didn't eat, the plant the master didn't eat, became soul food.
For us,
yams. That's what you feed to horses.
Mm-hmm.
It's not human consumption.
Mm-hmm.
Cornbread. Because the thing about it, if you study, welcome back to I Got Something to Say. I'm SSF Mo, a prison lawyer with my man
Ron B in the middle.
We still have the phenomenal Bo with us. Conversation.
Bo rah without all that rah.
The reason, and I know why. I know why Bo use rah because you when they get done, you like rah. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you.
See, in our culture, rah-rah is a bunch of bullshit. So I say bo rah-rah without all that rah-rah. You know what I'm talking about?
That's so good. Yeah.
That's why I say that.
No, we was just talking about vibing. I was going to read a section of the Willie Lynch letter for us, but we was just vibing about slavery and the connections between soul food and things like that. But whenever you're ready, Bo, just
take off.
Take off.
All right. This section is titled "Let's Make a Slave." It was the interest and business of slaveholders to study human nature, and the slave nature in particular, with a view to practical results. I and many of them attained astonishing proficiency in this direction. They had to deal not with earth, wood, and stone, but with men, and by every regard they had for their own safety and prosperity, they needed to know the material on which they were to work. Conscious of the injustice and wrong they were every hour perpetuating, and knowing what they themselves would do. Were they the victims of such wrongs? They were constantly looking for the first signs of the dreaded retribution. They watched, therefore, with skilled and practiced eyes, and learned to read with great accuracy the state of mind and heart of the slave through his sable face. Unusual sobriety, apparent abstractions, sullenness, and indifference indeed. Any mood out of the common was afforded ground for suspicion and inquiry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bo.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, let me read a section. Because like I like this section right here. It says the nigger marriage. We breed 2 nigger males with 2 nigger females. When we take the nigger males away from them and keep them moving and working, say one nigger female bears a nigger female and another bears a nigger male. Both nigger females being without influence of the nigger male image frozen with the independent psychology will raise their offspring into reverse positions. The one with the female offspring will teach her to be like herself, independent and negotiable. We negotiate with her, through her, by her. We negotiate with her at will. The one with the nigger male offspring, she being frozen with the subconscious fear for his life, will raise him to be mentally dependent and weak, but physically strong. In other words, body over mind. Now, in a few years, when these 2 offsprings become fertile for every reproduction, we will mate and breed them and continue the cycle. That is good, sound, and long-range comprehensive planning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bo, would you like grace us with one of your pieces, please?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for making space for that. This is a poem. Every April is National Poetry Month, and I write a poem every day. It's probably the time I write the most.
You write a poem every day?
Every day.
Wow.
Cool.
Yeah, so this is from April 2nd. Yes. They're not all good. April 2nd of last year is called Other People's Dads. Blended Burger King in a glass mug to meet his craving. The only way to swallow food now. He teases me for thrifting because he spent the last 5 years finding clothes. He thumbs the edges of the dusty red button-up he pulled from the desert in Arizona. He flipped a U-turn just to nab it. We swap stories about cars, hitchhikers, mushrooms, and the ways our skin color protected us from consequence, even in the clutches of drinking. There is a tea light burning on the table every night for a friend. The light is growing tired when he tells us about another friend's son who overdosed. Imagine me projecting my own soul's weariness onto a poor little tea light. Midnight is no nonsense about trying to escape one's own shadow.
I love that. That's nice.
You got great. I write too, and you can paint a great picture. That's what I like. You got like there's senses that you utilize when you write, colors. You can be there in a conversation or in the actual, like as you tell it, it's more storytelling than a poetry piece.
Sound like she in the moment.
But it's poetry in a sense that it's more of a prose poem. I mean, I can feel it, but I can feel like the senses, like I'm there with you, there in that moment, and that's why I like that. So it's because when I'm writing in general, I write as reactionary or disgruntled protest pieces. But yours is really telling a story, and would like to see a collection of them like come together in a piece, because it would tell me a story, and I would like that. So thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate that. You should keep writing. Definitely put out something.
Thank you.
Just definitely put out something, because you have a voice. You have a voice. When I say that, I should explain myself. You have a voice and you have an audience. Because my daughter reads poetry, and I brought one of the poets that was at Hamlin book. I bought his book home and gave one to my wife and one to my daughter, and she read it. She's like, "Oh, I don't like that because it's too masculine. It's too." And I didn't understand it at first. And then I was like, yeah, I understood, because it's more of a California type, graffiti type, and he's writing from his understanding of the world. And then I listened to your piece and said that she would definitely love it.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet.
And she has a lot of material. Tell me, at what point did you start writing one poem a day?
In April only. But I started doing that in undergrad, and I think I've done it every year. But it doesn't always happen in April. So sometimes there's a December 26th, April 16th poem. Like, I give myself till the end of the year.
Why did you try? Why did you start doing that?
Yeah.
Somebody said, like, hey, there's National Poetry Month. Sometimes, like, a challenge people give is, like, try to write something every day. And then it became, like, it's like a spring meditation for me. Cause, like,
I was just going to ask you, was it like therapy for you for something or something like that?
Yeah. I mean, having an opportunity once a day to, like, be quiet and turn inward is really powerful. I want it to be a daily practice, but I never seem to carry it. Sometimes May 5th I'll still be doing it, and then I'm like,
well,
so it's like your yoga.
Yeah, it's like yoga. Okay. Yeah, it's absolutely like yoga.
Well, the conversation on that is that I can only write under like it's like I wrote a lot in prison because I was facing a struggle, and I find my muse to come out during times when I'm trying to express a feeling that it's not in words, but I'm connecting with something, and that's how most of my pieces come out. So yeah, that's how I feel, and they're kind of eclectic, but it's what I was feeling at that moment, and I cannot write without that feeling.
I would love to hear something if you're willing to share.
Give me your dreadlock piece. Give her your dreadlock piece. Give her your dreadlock piece. Give her your dreadlock piece.
So I'm not saying anything to anybody. This is just mumble jumble right now, but I read it to my wife and my daughter earlier today. My father just passed away.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, he just passed away this Wednesday. We lost him, and it was tough because it was unexpected.
Yeah.
And I'm still dealing with it right now, but trying to understand what happened and why. But I'm dedicating this is episode 21, but episode 18, 19 is going to be dedicated to him. But I like to bring this up now. So I put this piece together just this morning. I was laying in bed, I thought about it, and I haven't written in a while. I don't know, it's no title. Is life just prison?
Is life just prison? You know, 4 walls and a cot, maybe a TV playing well-worn laugh tracks that are now unfamiliar. Yeah, life's nothing but prison. Niggas acting like they all up in the world, but they not. Dreads hanging down to their socks, tacks covering well-worn war wounds, masking leather mask faces, leather masks. You see, life's nothing but prison, back against cement blocks. But in their minds, you see, they in traffic on city blocks, still being told, get up against the wall, spread them, grab your nuts, and cough. Now you see, life ain't nothing but prison. Spirit's trapped, body living. Spirit knows there's more to life than just living. Body just above water, barely breathing. Happy though, material lust and flesh, like pigs and slop. Spirit miserable, there's no happiness in flesh. Life's nothing but prison. You know, razor wire fences, black eyes piercing through slots and plexiglass windows, wanting to be free, waiting to be free. On the other side, missing family, friends, and maybe even enemies. Soul knows what lies. A body only knows lies. A fool believes a lie. So give me my bowl of cherry so I can die.
I got something to say.
You wrote that after your father passed?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
was trying to get your mind state when you wrote that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to I'm gonna flesh it out. I wrote it this morning real fast, so it's kind of hard for me to read. But I'll set the meter to it when I write it again and sketch it through. But it just came to me, and it came to me. I laid in the bed, and like I told my daughter, when I write, it's divine. So it's not. When I go back and etch through and make it the words. When I write, the words just come to me. I don't have words.
You don't replace them words with other words. You just write them down as they are.
Yeah, as they come to me. It makes sense to me.
Right.
I liked the repetition of the 3, and like I felt like that like really grounded me and centered me in like this solitariness, or that I was getting from like the prison as something that can be with someone there and beyond. That really like hit me.
Yeah, because you could be in prison out here in the free world.
Yeah.
Right here.
Well,
prison is a state of mind.
Well, my whole thing was the body being in prison and the soul. The soul. But when I thought about the soul being in prison in the body. But the body not being in prison. So I thought about it like this. Being in prison, you're in a cell. And you know you're in prison. So you get out, so the body is free, but the soul's still in prison. So when you die, it's the only time the soul becomes free.
That's why I say the prison is a state of mind. Even when I was in prison, I wasn't in prison. Because I didn't let myself be locked up. I didn't let myself, like, I was there to serve my time for punishment for what I did.
Right.
I accept responsibility for what I did. However, I was free up here. I talked to my family all the time. I talked to my friends all the time. I wrote them. You know what I'm saying? And like, I didn't let nothing get me. People used to ask me all the time in prison, man, how you always walking around smiling and stuff like that? Because I don't let stuff get me down. I accept my responsibility and keep it moving. I don't believe there's no mistakes in life. I believe that there's only lessons in life. You learn from it, whatever mistake you made, and you keep it moving.
That's powerful. Keep
it moving.
All right, we're back, and I wanted to Bo. They just educated me on Priya. I didn't know. Anybody who's been to the joint knows about Priya. Even when I came out, I was shocked. They were reading in halfway houses. You have to go through the whole Priya. You don't have to watch the video, but you have to.
Priya stands for Prison Rape Elimination Act.
But Bo's going to take it one step further. They will explain exactly where it came from and how it came about. And really, like I said, I'm Mo, SAF Mo, your prison lawyer. I think I know everything. I just got floored.
I don't either. I wrote my long paper in law school about trans inmates. And so that's when I learned about Fannie D. Farmer, who was a black trans woman who was also a jailhouse lawyer. And she brought, like, this was just one of like many cases she brought while she was in there. And obviously that was nobody was a fan of her because
Right.
she learned herself.
A space for her, and that was sad.
Yeah. And
that-
so she brought a case against corrections, I think in California, and eventually her case she was doing it pro se, right, doing it by herself. Eventually she got so far with it that somebody picked her case up pro bono. It might have been ACLU or some other public interest law, and they took it all the way, and it laid out the standards for cruel and unusual punishment under the 8th Amendment related to this, which then informed the statute that became the Prison Rape Elimination Act, which the tragic thing to me is that piece of legislation didn't exist until 2003, I think, and that it was like socially acceptable
to be raped in prison. It was a joke. Punchline.
Yeah.
It was a punchline. People would that was the scare, oh, you're gonna go to, don't drop the soap. I mean, come on, how many times you heard that? And and that's what kills me. That's when we were at the conversation, it didn't really dawn on me that, and it did, but it didn't till we had the conversation. But yeah, it was socially acceptable to go to prison and be raped.
Right.
Yeah, it was in every comedy. It was funny, it was how they you went to prison and it was a big black guy. Bubba was in the cell with you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so Lucius. That's a
Minnesota. That's a Minnesota.
Yeah.
Legend.
But the thing about it is that story has been mythologized.
Yeah. Because I met Lucius. Lucius not like
cool.
that. Yeah, he's not like that.
But he was an individual who was in prison, and they just all these things came out about it, and it fell into that category.
They say Lucius will take everything you got, your soul and everything, but it's a lot. Lucius,
a lot. Yeah,
gentle giant.
And he happened to be African American.
Yeah, he's a gentle giant.
Yeah.
So the stereotype.
He's a gay dude, but there's a legend that says that Lucius gonna rape you when you come to prison.
And that's the sad irony for the LGBTQ community is that this black trans woman is the reason that this protection exists because she was being victimized, and you have this gay black person, I'm assuming, who's been stereotyped as the perpetrator. Like we're treated like predators when often they're the victims of sexual violence.
But that's here we go with the intersectionality of hyper white male masculinity, oppression, right? And then you're trying to find where everybody's trying to exist within that, right? And where do you fit? So because the main thing is, male really, you want to be this hyper masculine male, right? And exude all this. But then it's funny, like you say, when they are doing the victimizing everyone, right? And then and how do you it's cool to be that individual because they make it cool, but they're the ones doing all the victimization. Yet still they're flipping the story around, and they're changing it, and they're getting these poster childs for who the individuals are that's doing it, and it's usually these African American males, Bubba, Lucius. And they're not even, when you actually meet them, they're not the victims, but they've been painted as these. I mean, not victims, but they're not the perpetrators.
They're painted as these demons.
But I'm telling you, the gentleman that we're talking about was never that individual.
No.
Right.
Lucius, I told you I met Lucius where he's a gentle giant.
Yeah, never was that individual.
He not the type of person that'll victimize you and take what you got. He not gonna let you take advantage of them now, but he's not the person that they perpetrate him to be. Is like a rapist and a prison rapist, and gonna take that ass from you when you in the cell with him.
Right.
Nah, he ain't that dude.
Yeah. So to go back to the PREA and all the things to do with PREA, and just when I was talking to Bo, and we were just talking about a lot of different things about the area where individuals who are now incarcerated who want to find their identity are put in seg.
Yeah, so there's definitely these instances where, like I know an individual who had been in and out like most of her life, assigned male at birth, was living in her truth before she went in the last time, and wanted to start hormone treatment. And the DOC had a policy previously, it was called like a freeze frame policy, where you couldn't start hormone treatment if you weren't on it before you went to the prison. So you couldn't start a new treatment if you weren't on it before. But that wasn't actually the policy at the time. But that's how they were still moving. That was how they're still treating people, because how many people know what all the policies are and have access to a lawyer.
Right.
A lot of times after your public defender, there's like nobody.
Right. No, and they're not posting policies, especially that benefit you on the board, so you don't know.
Right. And so she was writing kites, like trying to plead her case to get access to treatment. One of those kites was about asking for makeup and like gender confirming clothing, and then that got taken as requesting contraband. Yeah, it was requesting contraband, so she got put in segregation for that ask. And then in addition to that, we were talking about before we came back on, the trans community has like disproportionate rates of suicide. Like it's just really high because of all the discrimination that people experience. And so when that gets shared in prison, the response is you go to segregation. So she got segregation for when she asked for gender affirming, you know, makeup, bra, panties, all these things. That got flipped on her to punish her. Then she expresses mental health crisis in response to not getting to like walk in her truth. She gets put in segregation for that because it's the same response. It's the same space. The punitive space is used when you have a mental health crisis, even though that's not therapeutic. People most need connection at those times. So yeah, that's the response. I mean, there have been, I know that at Shakopee there's been some like progress on this issue, but we have a long way to go.
But Shakopee is when it comes to the prison population, it does not. It's not the same as the male prisons in population wise, and if any place needs it to be the male prisons. So just to piggyback on the conversation about SEG. Now SEG has two reasons. They use SEG for administrative SEG to protect you. Right. And then they use SEG for punishment. Although they're two different terms, they have the same outcome, right? When you go to SEG, you're isolated. But I was tripping because when they had the Kim Powder's trials, Offender Powder, her defense attorney really pointed out that they know what SEG does to individuals, and why are you still utilizing it? You know, the only thing it does is it deteriorates prison in general causes psychosis, but go further. Now you place a person who's already suffering from issues into a box that they have no social contact, and any social contact they have is being limited. It just exacerbates that issue, or that, you know what I'm saying? So they place the individual back into a box where they control everything, and it's horrible. And I spent 8 months in Oak Park Heights in SAG. So when they pled for Kim,
that was 23 and 1, huh?
Yes, sir.
23 hours locked down and 1 hour out every day.
You don't get. See, hour out in a place like that is optional because everything is in your cell. You know, so you shower in your cell, but the shower is limited to them turning the shower on and turning the time. See, everything is controlled in your cell. When you go out, so what they do is they do like they do in SEG. You know, when you're in SEG, they'll call to your cell 6 o'clock in the morning and say, "Do you want rec?" But rec might be an hour from now, might be 3 hours from now.
Right. You don't know what time it's going to be.
You don't know. So
and you might be half asleep.
Yeah, you might be half asleep.
No, I want to go to rec today. Or you might say
6 o'clock in the morning. You're not answering questions to do with the rest of the day. Right. But that's when they call to your cell, 6 o'clock in the morning, and you don't know when you're going to go. So you might go after breakfast, right after breakfast, or you might go an hour or so after breakfast, or 2 hours or so, because you don't have a watch. You don't know
until you learn the routine of the officers that are working.
Right.
Well, you get to say yes or no.
You get a feel for what's going on, but that's not it. So everything. So it just bothered me when this defense attorney said something about the utilization of segregation and her mental stability, because they don't care when it comes to us. They locked me in seg for 8 months straight.
But they cared about her.
But they didn't want her to be in just because they called herself, again, it was administrative because she's an officer.
Well, she can't go to General Pop.
She can never go to General Pop.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is not whether or not, it's just the fact that they have so much concern when it's them.
Yeah.
Not
both
them.
Right.
Yeah, I want to clarify it.
Because they'll kill her if she go to General Pop.
It does, but the thing about it is it made such a conversation piece at that particular time, but they would lock a person in seg for years. There's some men have been in seg for over 40 years.
Right.
It's like the opioid crisis. Like, we're only talking about the war on drugs because white people's kids are facing this.
It's funny you bring it up, Bo, because our next episode is episode 18, and it's Eric's story. He's a recovering opioid addict, and we breached that conversation with him because the difference between opioid crisis and a war on drugs, even though terminology is different, it's different. They have more facilities.
The opioid epidemic is just like the crack epidemic.
It's not treated like one, though.
No, it's not. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's less criminalization. It's more rehabilitation and diversion purposes.
But I'm talking about the addiction is just as bad. As
it
the
is
crack.
bad. Yeah, it's even worse because it's more available through prescriptions. So that's the start. So even if you can't get your hair on, you can get it prescribed, or you can get somebody who has a prescription for it. So we had that conversation about the similarities and the responses. And Eric's position was, and you can watch the episode, I'm not going to even tell you the position, but he had a different perspective on things, and I took because this is his opinion, I took it to be his truth, but I see it as different. I see that because if you notice, the individuals who've been passing away from COVID, a lot of them have been previous individuals addicted to crack. And crack, because it's something you inhale, has latent effects. So if you introduced something like that into our community, and then even if it doesn't kill you now, eventually it'd be the reason why you die later on down in your life, right? You know, so it was, to me, it was targeted, it was purposeful, and it was done with a reason, which all those things sort of covers it.
Well, I tell people all the time, I had this conversation at work the other day. You got a crack epidemic in this neighborhood over here, right? But we don't have the resources to go over to Colombia or wherever, Nicaragua, wherever the crack's coming, wherever the cocaine's coming from. We don't have the resources to go over there and get it. So how do you think it's getting here? Who do you think's putting it here?
Right.
Who do you think's putting it here? We not going over there and getting it.
The thing about it is that crack is so different that and I don't want to digress, but you don't even have to say anything like that. I mean, I know there's very intelligent individuals, but it takes a chemist to understand. It's not hard to make it, but now who comes up with their mind like, if I just put some bacon.
We can't grow it over here.
No, it's not even about growing. It's just the connection between the chain reaction that caused this hasn't been done in a laboratory. Someone had to come up with it. It didn't come up in the inner city. Someone had to be taught that to utilize that, to put it out. So just with that, with everything. So when I look at the criminal injustice, and the reason I thought it was so important for us to talk about this and talk about the minorities, the ones who aren't being aren't seen, and the reason why they need identity and why that identity needs to be recognized. I thought it was important to have this conversation.
Yeah, and another example, like before prison, when it comes to like the LGBTQ community, particularly trans folks, is a lot of people have name changes. I've had a name change, and another individual that I know got pulled over for like speeding. This person's brown. Their car was in their dead name. That's like the lingo that we use for like the names we no longer go by. And so their ID didn't match what the car was registered as. They were a transnational adoptee, so their name was white sounding, but they had chosen a name that was more reflective of their culture of origin. So the cops assumed, one, there were too many cops. Stolen car, ask way too many questions about their genitals, like way too many questions. Like you don't need to be asking. You don't need to be asking all that. So you don't need to know what surgery someone's had. You don't need to once they got booked them under, even though they had legally changed their name, booked them under their dead name.
It's not illegal.
I mean,
I understand that whatever name you utilize is a name they can book you under. But if I have an ID and I'm saying that's me, they have to book me under my name. It
shows their incompetence. They don't know our community. They don't know what we look like.
Why are we? Why okay, in domestic violence situations, what they would do is they would come in with a instructor who would educate them and they would have to be competent enough to interject themselves into those conversations, right? So why aren't we doing that right now? Why is it an initiative with that? Because it's not like it's something that's going away. It's not something it's not something that we can say it's not important. Oh, that's not important. We don't need to worry about that. No, you need to, when you're in the community, policing this community, and you're supposed to be an integral part of this community, and you're supposed to be protect and serve, it's everybody, right? We all pay taxes. So why aren't you concerned with identity? But let me just say this, and I gotta put this point. The reason I'm making such a big point about it, because that's the same way they felt about African Americans. Yeah. It's not fair to do it to they, them, this culture, and because what I'm trying to do is do this connection. Yeah. Because it's not fair for us to be like, oh, it's just them. No.
Yeah, there needs to be solidarity.
It's something about their system. I'm gonna tell you right now. If I go to Minneapolis and get booked, even though I have my ID that says who I am, my fingerprints are gonna come back to a whole nother name. Because the first time I ever got booked in Minneapolis, I used the alias name. Now, when I get booked in St. Paul, it comes back to a whole nother alias. Even though I have my real name as an ID, driver's license, whatever, it still comes back to that name. I don't know why. I can't explain it. I don't know what their system is like. In Minneapolis, I'm one person. In St. Paul, I'm another person, but I'm really this person.
But I don't believe that it's the person. It's the it's an opportunity for them to harass and crack jokes and make fun.
No. You're right.
Harass individuals that aren't like them.
Right.
That's what it is for.
The alias issue is real. Like someone sometimes gives their cousin, and then that's there forever. Then that person goes to apply for a job, and like their record comes up. That's a real thing. And in this instance, this person had a valid legal driver's license, and they didn't book that person under.
That's disrespectful.
Yeah, and then that person had medications, and they were being held, and they couldn't get their medication
because the names don't match.
The name didn't match.
This
person's being held in segregation because it's not safe for them to be in the other spaces. They're not getting medication. They don't know what time it is, like you're talking about.
Yeah.
They're in segregation. Like that person lost it for a bit. Like
you don't lose it for a little bit. That's like post-traumatic. You deal with it, and though you act a certain way, you cannot get rid of that out of your head.
That's a fear forever.
Yeah.
Do you know why my name is Ron B in the middle?
No.
On this show?
Tell me.
Because I understand where you coming from, where he coming from, and I understand what's real. Let me explain something to you. People go to jail every day, all hours of the day, and some people are criminals and they did what they did. Some people didn't do what they did. Some people are wrongfully convicted and wrongfully jailed and stuff like that. However, throughout time, these jailers have dealt with people that conned them, connived them, and said they were this person, they was this person, or acted like this or acted like that, and tricked them. And then they learned over time that this person just tricked me. So, with that being said, I'm saying, Ron B in the middle says, they don't know how to deal with each individual because they've been conned and duped and deceived over time.
And I'm going to tell you, I'll let you say your thing, and I feel like I just did an example. When we talk about PREA, when individuals come in, I've seen them ask them not the PREA questions, but you know when you go in, you get transported, and they have to go through whether you had suicide, your medical conditions, and stuff like that. I've seen them seen a person say, "Yes, I've attempted to commit suicide," and the CO say, "We got another one."
Yeah, and I get it. You're right.
So when you
got some assholes, you got some assholes in there too.
An individual about certain things that's private. That shouldn't be discussed,
right?
And you do certain things. To me, it becomes you're like, oh, they're not racist. They just grew up like that.
And I agree with you. I agree with you. Now, I like I said, I understand your side. I understand what's real. You have some assholes out there that just want to be assholes.
Majority of them do.
I don't know. I can't say that.
It's easy for them to take a position it's easy for them to dislike me because of my skin color, because what they seen on TV. Because it's easy, right? Not ask me what's going on, just take a position like, oh, he's a criminal, blah, blah, blah. So it's easy to make fun of an individual because you don't know about the individual, because it's not in your family or you don't have anything. You ask me, explain to Bo about these shirts and why they're why have a rainbow on the shirt.
Yeah, do that. Hold on. Before you do it, with that being said, I understand that there are some assholes out there, but I do understand that there's some human people out there too.
It's not going to be unless they're experienced it and they have it within their family. When they, because you don't know. It's like anything. Like, oh, I don't like that. Oh, you never ate it before. It just looks funny. Chinese food. I don't eat Chinese food. You know what I'm saying? You eat it, tastes good. Okay, now you like it. It's part of your life. Oh, you gotta try it. It tastes good. Whatever. So when you got ignorant white folks who believe there's certain things that they believe in certain ways the world should be, it doesn't include people that's different.
You do, but at the same time, you got some people that's human.
You have, but they're not on the police force. They don't look for people.
So you believe all police are bad?
I'm just trying to say when you bring this positioning to the conversation, it's like you're saying like, okay, well, it might be one. If it was one, they would have understood this situation that Bo just brought up, and it would have been more sympathetic.
I've encountered them.
You encountered them, but this
I've encountered them from both sides.
But this individual didn't. The individual, when you have a person whose mental health is in question, and you do something to them that's traumatic, and it's just a joke, you know what I'm saying? They could have remedied the situation by just booking the person under their real name.
That's where the blue wall comes in.
That's where, whatever.
Yeah, and they're not holding each other accountable.
Yeah, that's where the blue wall comes in.
And that's culpable too. Like you're culpable for the harms that you stand by just as much as the ones that you take on personally.
Definitely.
That's why,
So I really want you to watch 137 Shots on Netflix. You got Netflix?
I do, and I will.
Watch 137 Shots. Please watch. I want you to see the part. I want you to see the part where they all come in the courtroom.
Yeah, but Bo's got so much. Well, I just want Bo to come to our screening since I've been down. And I want to talk about that briefly before we leave. But I do want to go.
Tell her about the rainbow.
So I had these are initial shirts, right? It came out there. It was green. It was a couple different colors. So I go. My father-in-law was in town at the time, and he's seen the shirts, and I gave him one, and he was like, "Why don't you put a rainbow on the shirts?" And I was like, "A rainbow? What are you talking about? What for? Why would I want to put a rainbow on the shirt?" I'm against the rainbow. Then I started thinking about it, and it all started to make sense because as soon as I came in, Fi was like, "Why don't you put no judge zone on the shirts?" And I was like, "You know what? All that stuff starts to make sense because when I thought about it, because it becomes easy to understand that because African Americans make up such a high number in prisons, and it seems like nobody gives a fuck about what's going on. But but when we have these conversations, it's understanding like they like to play that us and them game, where they're, you're not them. So it's like we're all together. And when I spoke to Bo, I was happy that I understand that because my son, he goes through, my oldest son goes through a lot of different things, and I felt like when he comes and visits and stuff like that, it's always been difficult, and I felt like it wasn't just for African Americans. It wasn't just for it's the intersectionality or coming together as a coalition or whatever. It's for all above. But I got something to say. Don't just represent Black African American males. It represents everybody, because everybody's getting victimized to the system, and it's under. And if I needed a bridge or I needed a transitioning point, this was it. I need to make a representation. I need to make everybody understand that I got something to say. It's the voice of the voiceless. It's for everybody.
And a no judge zone.
No judge
with the rainbow. It's the rainbow. It's the voice of the voiceless.
I appreciate that.
And the voice of the voiceless is not just Black males. It's everybody who's being victimized by the system. And it was for me to make that get to that understanding and be like, that's what we represent. We represent everybody.
If you were to ask trans adults if they've ever been incarcerated, it's almost like a quarter or like a third. And then if you add like Blackness onto that,
that double
is higher.
Yeah.
And it all starts with we've been talking about the criminal justice system, but the child protection system, runaways, like youth who have been rejected by their families who are LGBTQ, that's where it starts, and then they start getting caught up in delinquency.
But then also the criminal, the drug scene. Yeah, that might be that's them self-medicating.
Yes,
right. So
poster child.
Right. I'm just saying that all those things that criminalize that us views as criminalizing them is how it plays itself out. Yeah. So now you're not part of what we.
I got something to say.
Deem is socially acceptable, then everything you do thereafter is criminalized. You find yourself in a system, but that's every Black child can tell that story too, that grew up in the inner city. So it's not. So that's why I'm saying. That's why I got something to say. Using the rainbow colors, join no judge zone is because I don't want to be associated with the understanding that I'm somewhere in the middle and I don't identify with them, but identify them. No, we identify with those voiceless individuals like ourselves who've been victimized by the system, and that's transgender. That's everybody. That's everybody. That's everybody could come and represent us and solidarity. The word that I've been going back and forth and not utilizing, but we now to come together in solidarity. Disabled individuals, because I've seen people who were blind in prison who are
everybody encompasses everybody.
Yeah, so I want to say that, but before we end, I wanted to talk about this documentary that we're going to be screening next week. It's called Since I've Been Down. And it's going Cold Peace. We're one of the first, not the first people in Minnesota. No, I would say, well, probably we're along the lines of a few people in Minnesota that's being fortunate to see the document.
I've seen the trailer.
It's been filmed. It's been the director has been filming this for over 14 years, and it's our opportunity to push our voice into the mainstream media and have people represent like what they're being talking about isn't a myth or a figment of the imagination that actually exists. So
it's not a deaf ear to what they saying.
Right. So I mean my because like I said, I'm really want to see it, because even the trailer had to be spellbound, especially when they explain exactly what's been going on in our communities and how they have been utilizing the criminal justice system,
criminal injustice system
to track juveniles into the prison. And what they use is Bill and Hillary Clinton, and they utilize how easy it is to certify a juvenile and make them an adult, and that really took me and made me recognize it. Bo, I'll let you tell us what you thought of the trailer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited when you get to see because it's something that a project from a number of years, and adult certification of youth is something that I've been aware of, but like that's just from like the conversations I'm having in the legal community. I don't feel like most people understand, one, that youth can be certified as adults in Minnesota if they haven't been impacted by it. It's like, I guess that's not something that people are concerning themselves
What's the minimum age? What's the minimum? Well, I mean, is it 13? Can I be certified at 13?
No, I believe it's 16 or 17. And the other thing that people think is juvenile records are private, and at 16 and 17, like at a felony level, like those aren't private.
Oh, I want to know that they're not private.
Yeah.
They used my juvenile record against me the first time I committed a crime in Minnesota.
Yeah, they will use it to enhance. Yeah, they will use it. Extended juvenile jurisdiction is the other thing that, so there's the adult certification, and extended juvenile jurisdiction is they can petition the court so that they can have jurisdiction on you. It's when you're 16 or 17 until you are, I feel like it's 21. It might be 19, but it's like they can keep, the idea, like prosecutors like to think they're being lenient. They're like, oh, this is like keeping you out of adult court, but it's actually keeping youth under surveillance longer. It's like how we see it.
Yeah, that's what they like.
More system involvement.
Right.
But they're like, no, we're keeping you in the juvenile court, which is better. And it's like, I mean, that's relative.
Keeping eyes on you, keeping tabs on you.
The thing about it is if you open it up and say, well, like, so I'm on probation, parole, and under parole, like, if I do anything, like you get a traffic ticket, minor, I get a traffic ticket, you can send me back.
Right.
And I mean a traffic ticket, like I go down, park my car in Minneapolis, get a traffic ticket on my car, get a summons to court, and then it pops up, and my PO asks me, oh, why didn't you tell me about it? Well, I didn't know about it. I'm just finding out like you finding about it. It's a lie, and that's enough to get me sent back.
Sent back to prison.
A traffic ticket.
Yeah.
I'm not making this up. It's possible because he's going to say I lied to him. I should have known about it. And that's when you say in the system, it's me now sitting at this a sentencing guideline commission, hearing about them giving the people a chance and how that technical violations being sent back for technical violations is enough for them to feel like as though you're not taking your chance seriously. But a technical violation can be anything.
Yeah.
Anything, glitch in the system is a technical violation. If you got
just a simple getting your name ran, something happened at a restaurant where you at, and they took your IDs for a witness, and they ran your name.
You don't tell your PO about it. You don't tell your PO about it, and he can, and he'll ask you all these ludicrous questions.
Say for instance, you at a restaurant, and you're on probation, and somebody comes in there and robs the place. You sitting down eating over here, minding your business. You ain't part of the robbery. You ain't part of nothing. But after the robbers get away with the cash and stash, the police get called, and the police come, and they interview all the witnesses. They run y'all name. They got y'all names. They write it down on the thing. Got your driver's license number and all that. Your name getting ran by the police is a simple violation that the police, your PO can send you back for.
Because the stipulations of supervision of release read plainly no interaction with the police.
Yeah.
No read just like that is how they interpret it. And so the thing about it is like Block was talking about on our episode about getting shot. He got shot by the police on accident, the wrong place at the wrong time, got shot, leaving the scene. He got bonded.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just. I mean, maybe these are outliers, but to me, it seems not the norm, but it makes no sense for that to be a violation.
Yeah, I think that those are important to lift up because they're why they shouldn't exist. And I know that there's conversations in the legal community about like eliminating, like for probation, particularly technical violations. And when I was appearing for probation violations and people were back because they had a dirty test or whatever, I said on the record, I was like, no one in this room is an expert in behavior change. And so putting this person, making them sit for 30 days is like that's not the move. Like that's not recovery. That's not gonna, this person has to choose that. And this punishment, one, they have a job. Who of you can miss your job for 30 days? Nobody. I couldn't.
Nobody.
I don't show
fired.
Yeah, I don't have a job anymore.
Miss it 2 days.
So I'm like, this person needs our support right now.
Right.
Like, what are we gonna do in this room to support this person because they're struggling?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I like the conversation. I like every time I talk to you, Bo, I just like your the way you think, and it's not outside the box. It's not outside the box. It's how it's. If I had to, I'm not gonna be categorized as reform or anything like that. It's just good. It's humanistic conversation, and that's how criminal justice should look. It should be human, not inhuman or dehumanizing. With dehumanization as its goal. And I just love the way you talk, because I think that if we could push you up, get you in a position, I think things will look a lot different.
I really appreciate that. And I'll say, so I was doing that sentencing work, and then one day between cases, one of the sentencing judges paused, and he's like, off the record, I just wanted to say, like, you're intelligent, you're articulate, XYZ. He's like, but most importantly, you're kind. And he ended up asking for my resume, and he had a reputation for being soft. He departed on every motion, like to depart, except for the non-negotiable, like occasionally like a
mandatory minimums.
Yeah, like those. And even then, he was trying to like find a way where he's like, is there a legal?
Right.
He had his clerk researching, trying to find the exceptions, like you're talking about.
Yeah.
And he always entered the factors. So like that's the thing about the subjectivity of judges, is like you can get such different outcomes, and there's just allegedly these neutral people, but they're not.
How could you be? What, do they live in a vacuum?
Yeah.
How could they be not neutral when you grow up and you socialize and you talk and you interact and you join clubs?
Yeah.
And you become part of certain things. So yeah, so you just sit on the bench and act like you're not neutral, or you have this godly ability to be disconnected and be all in contact. Get the hell out of here.
And he did have a reputation amongst other judges, but like you're appointed, you're there, like they can't necessarily get rid of you, and then there's not really like anybody above you, and that's a good reputation to have.
Yeah.
You know, as a soft judge. And the other piece that like I feel like maybe you all know this too is like you can remove somebody, like the first judge or whatever that gets.
Yeah. I didn't know that till I actually started reading that you can, without any type of motion, just volunteer. You can just eject them. And
like attorneys use that strategy. You hear that this person's like coming down with a hammer on every person that comes through. You're like, well, I'd rather take a risk.
But I didn't know that was possible. Right. Because a lot of times when you go to the other option is, the other thing is that you have to file an affidavit or reason behind this, so it would be conflict of interest. I had this judge prior. I know this judge from I know this judge from golfing. Or my wife used to work for him a while ago.
Oh boy.
Yeah, no. I'm just saying.
Don't talk about that good old boy.
No. I'm just saying these are the reasons why. But what Bo brought up, which is great, is that you can eject them just based on I don't like him, or I heard something. You don't need an affidavit. You don't need any.
Just the first one.
Just the first one. Get out of here. Let me roll the dice and see what else comes up.
Let me tell y'all something. I got something to say. You got something to say. We all got something to say. Let's say it.
But I want Bo to give one more shout out to that place that you were telling me about.
Oh yeah, I wanted to give a shout out to my dear friend and colleague CB Baga. They run a queer and trans or LGBTQ legal clinic out of the Family Tree.
Yes.
So they're one of the few private practice folks who I know who are like really coming through in that free legal services that everybody's supposed to offer.
Shout out. Yeah, we like to, if we can get if we can invite them to the show, I'd love to get them on the show. We can talk, chop it up. The other thing, and you know, if whatever, just I mean, I'm down with anything. Just even putting in a website link, whatever we can do to uplift everybody. Other things, since I've been down, we're gonna view it, check it out. It's time for us to bring that into the main media for people to realize what's going on.
And don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and share.
Ron B.
Share it with all your.
Ron B.
We the voice.
IGSTS.
We the only voice.
IGSTS,
the only voice.
And the GP.
The grillpit. The voice of the voice.
SAF Mo, the prison lawyer. My man.
Ron B in the middle.
And our special guest. Get out of here. Thank you. God bless.
Yes. Blessings to all.
Yes. It's beautiful.
What an honor.
Beautiful. I'm so glad you came.
Me too.
Yes. I'm so glad you came. Like I said, I didn't even.
I'm glad Far came back. because we let him get away. We gotta get him to take pictures of us three before he
So when you look at criminal justice, and I always say it's we got the centrist position, you got right or left, and it's always swinging one way or the other, right? And then you look at criminal justice and say, okay, what do we want? How do we want to correct this? And we want to make it right. And so you got somebody, John Choi comes in and says, I'm going to change everything. I'm going to make it better. I'm going to make it more progressive. But then, I mean, when this pendulum keeps swinging back and forth, I mean, there's really no room for change because if he doesn't have, like you said, if he doesn't appease everybody, mainly law enforcement and those individuals who believe in it, then he's going to get kicked out.
One more time.
And somebody else is going to come in who's going to swing the pendulum back the other way, because for the longest it's always been if you hadn't had a strong position in law enforcement, like we got to get harsher or tougher on crime, you were never going to be elected. So you have all these different things going on. So so you can do whatever you want to do to individuals who are criminals. We don't care. As long as you have that, you will always be in that position. So that's why I'm saying. What the correction is to make him not elected official anymore, so he can do change or I don't know, because that office can't continue doing what it's doing to individuals and getting a pass and having the counter, have whatever brain trust that's running it be pro law enforcement is the only way to be. And even though it makes mistakes, it's a bad seed. It's not the institution understanding of stuff. So I don't know. Like I said, I told you before. Personally, I've always respected him. He seems to be the most progressive person that I've seen in that position. And it could be just because he finds himself being a minority and seeing it from a different perspective.
Yeah, he grew up here in St. Paul.
Right, he's got some understanding of truly how things work. So he's not coming from this bubble, right?
Yes.
So
yeah.
That's sort of when I saw him and I was like, okay, well, maybe he's probably second generation, individuals who come here. So he's grew up with all the prejudices coming with
he experienced a lot of things that he has shared. And honestly, the only reason that I accepted the position at the county attorney's office is because of him.
Right.
Like, I was like, that's the man. I'm gonna go work for the man. And I was like, there aren't a lot of paid positions for public interest work. You either have to be really affluent and be able to volunteer at places like I work at now, or you have to go in a big law. And once you go into, or not big law, but like private practice, and a lot of those places, you're not gonna have the opportunity. They work you so hard. They grind you like 60+ hours a week. You're supposed to do 50 hours of pro bono a year as a private practice attorney. I don't know what the actual statistics are in Minnesota, but everybody's not doing theirs. Like, I have a friend who I know runs like a trans and queer legal clinic actually here out of like Family Tree. But that's like one of the only people I could like vouch for.
You want to shout them out?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
CB Baga.
Because I'm just saying that, like I said, I'm like with this. It's kind of hard because so when I was in the joint, you've seen a lot of individuals who were pre-ops come through, right?
Yeah.
And it was really tough because the institution didn't have the facilities to deal with what was going on.
I got something to say.
They should, but they didn't, right? So it was that during that time, and it was so you've seen a lot of issues with showering, with sales, with just interactions.
Yes.
So they had to start off initially by isolation. So isolation was the but now you have an issue, right? Because you can't really isolate, because isolation always is a punishment.
It's a punishment tool. A 72-hour hold.
Well, just like we're gonna.
It's the same space.
Well, yeah, we're gonna discriminate against you, but it's not discrimination. We're protecting you. Yeah, we're going to protect you, but we're going to put you in this area where you're limited. But now you're getting more. I mean, when you do something different, you automatically gonna get views. Like, why are you over here and I'm not over here? So you're just making it more. So I did a lot of different changing. When I went back on my violation, they had because when I was in D Hall, if you had, D Hall was for the kitchen unit, but D Hall also was like an honors dorm. If it's, you can, they use the term, but it's an oxymoron. That makes no sense. But so D Hall was a space, and then when I came back, they must have got a lawsuit because D Hall wasn't the area. All of a sudden, it was general pop. So now it's general pop. So I like I said, it's just, to me, here we go with another reason for them to depopulate prison. You know, why are you forcing individuals into a hostile situation where you don't have the capacity to even make it happen, but you're trying to put circles into squares.
Yeah,
you know?
and yes, because we have a gender binary system. Is the most extreme example.
It's segregated and discriminatory.
Yes.
And it profits off it. I mean, well, it propagates that as being the norm, right?
Right,
yeah.
absolutely.
So it's okay to discriminate against these individuals and separate, and they preach segregation.
Because they committed a crime, it's extra okay to segregate this group out. Yeah, and I have stories of an individual who wanted to start hormone treatment while in prison, and the policy actually had changed before they were in, and they were maintaining that it was still a policy of freeze frame, where like whatever treatment you're getting, like in corrections policy, it was like whatever treatment you have, it didn't call out gender, it was like anything. If you're not receiving that treatment before you go in, or like hormone treatment before you go in, you can't start it here. Like, we're not gonna pay for that. There had been challenges to that, and it had changed, but that's how they were still moving through things. And this person had sent kites, like, right, we talk about kites disappearing or being used in inappropriate ways, and this person's mental health was like not great. They weren't getting to live as who they are. Like, their pronouns were she, her, and they were in men's prison. One, there was the physical safety issue, but then this person was they had been living as themselves before they were incarcerated again. And so they wanted to do that here. And so they asked for makeup. They're like, you know, they asked for all these things out of desperation to like prove their identity, because they also felt like, because they didn't look as feminine as some people, because they hadn't had access to treatment, that they were like somehow less valid. That person ended up spending time in segregation because they asked for contraband. So that person took that, whoever responded to that kite, took it as like a violation because they asked for makeup or like things that are not like accessible, and they're like, oh, this person's requesting contraband from me, so we're going to put them in segregation. So they got punished.
My conversation to that has always been victimization, because I didn't want to talk about it, but all I see is victimization, like people victimizing individuals once they come into that facility and utilizing them as making, like I said, so like you said, your crowd for help, it becomes the system's opportunity to victimize you, put you in sad.
Yep.
See what I'm saying? So
yes, sir.
Even but I'm gonna go further. I just wanted to get you, like, this is what I'm saying. So then you call predatory behavior. Now those victims that come into prison who are searching for relationships are now even further victimized, right? Because what they have set up in prison, And that's why I've seen a lot of victimization. First for security reason purposes, because now I'm gonna take myself. I'm gonna put myself in with a bunch of wolves, and now the COs are not gonna help me. Administration's not gonna help me. There's no individual, there's no entity out there that can help me. So now I have to trust the wolves to protect me.
Yes.
Now I'm gonna be victimized.
Yeah, the only thing that's protecting you, like every state could, like we have PREA, right? Rape Elimination Act, and that comes from a trans prisoner litigating from inside the prison.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I want you to speak on that.
Yeah, Fanny D. Farmer, a black trans woman, is the person we have to thank for that. And it didn't exist until 2003. Everybody in this country was okay with like prison rape as like a natural consequence of our system.
It was a joke.
Right?
It was a joke.
It was a punchline.
Yeah. It's like, oh, you don't. Yeah, they're gonna rape you. Don't drop the soap. The funny. Yeah. It's like when I went to prison, I was so offended by the conversation of that and that being accepting and people knowing about it and it happening and you're okay with it. Like, when did that become part of the punishment?
Right. And so the fact that it wasn't until early 2000s that we even had a law, and then not everybody necessarily takes the federal funding, and then even when they do, the PREA advocate, what are they there? Are they at the prison? I don't know that they are. I think that's somebody you write to, and maybe they have,
it's a phone call, it's a telephone call that you can make to someone, or maybe put in a kite to someone. Yeah. But you know what I'm going to tell you? Here's what I'm going to tell you. This is how the COs treat you when here's more victimization. So you tell the CO like, hey, because they ask you, part of PREA is, well, not even PREA, when you come into any institution, they have certain questions they ask you. So one of the questions they ask you is, have you ever committed suicide? Because they have to, if you have, they have to make sure that you get watched or whatever, and it's a bunch of joke to them. So you can understand how they're gonna treat PREA, right?
Right. And the person who was talking to me about this like contraband situation didn't talk about these issues, but in terms of the suicide and like that trans community has like really high rates of suicide. And she was saying that like the way, because like as an attorney, I can have a confidential interaction with people. There are very few confidential anythings, in prison. And she was like, we need like something that's confidential where we can share that. Because if I share that I'm feeling that, I just get put in SEG. It's the same place I get put.
If you do something.
If I do something wrong, like that is not a therapeutic
with the same
response.
Type of punishments, right? You the same type of SEG's no. So if you go to SEG administratively, what they're talking about is administrative SEG opposed to a punitive SEG, but it's the same facility doing the same thing. So what? If you go to administrative, they might have you a TV or radio back there, perhaps. Some of them do it if it's just you're volunteering to go there for whatever reason, or they're putting you there for some reason. But you're not able to move like any little liberties that you had. You're not going to school from back there. You're not interacting in group from back there. You're not doing anything to the prison.
I need your original copy.
We should just read a spot.
I don't have.
But you gotta go in.
Yeah, I don't have school.
Just a spot. That's all.
Cause like these copies right here, these ones I have. The reason why I have them in my trunk because they messed them up.
Okay.
And the ones that I had. Like I gave them out to people already to read.
There's only a spot. There's not a specific area.
This for me?
Yeah. We're just gonna have to read a little spot, and then we're gonna I'll have you read your piece on. You can sit down and read your piece.
I really don't need the original copy because the original copy that you gave me, I got this girl at work. I'm gonna have her bring it to work tomorrow or Monday, and I'm gonna have her bring it to work, and I'm gonna make more copies.
Just pick out a section. You can pick out a section and read.
Pick out a section of this?
Yeah, just like what's it? Let me see. I just
You ain't want to go back upstairs?
Yeah, catch y'all later, man.
I got something to say. Hey.
All right.
Nice to meet you.
Good? Yeah. How long you gonna be around? I told you go in the refrigerator right here. I haven't seen it.
Well, do I read a poem about my favorite color? Or something that has more social commentary?
Whatever you feel like the vibe is.
Maybe, okay, other people's dads. I'll read other people's dads.
Yeah. Huh? Alright.
Take care.
Lock the door for me, please. That's my roommate right there.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I wasn't up here when he first came up.
That's okay. I can do that. I'm like, hi.
I'll just let you read Let's Make a Slave, that part.
Just a paragraph?
Yeah, just a small little paragraph.
Okay.
Or far as you wanna read. But this is the area right here. Because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do like this connection. I'm gonna have different people reading it at different times. Like in different spots. And
that's
we're
different cultures.
Yeah, different cultures.
Different age groups.
Yeah, so I'm trying to bring it up to speed.
That's powerful. I like that.
So it's just, I just thought about it and I thought that it'd be interesting because a lot of people think like it's a mythology or they talk about it as like it's a punchline but it's like, no, it's real. People are doing it. We're experiencing it. And it's actually implemented in a lot of different things that we do. Like you see it a lot in prison because prison is based off of the slave plantation. So you still have individuals they call swampers who are like field
house niggas.
Swampers are house niggas. Yeah. So what they do, what a swamper does is he cleans because they have no janitors, they have nobody. Everything is prison labor. So he'll get out and be able to come out of his cell. He can come out of his cell.
Why everybody else locked up?
Yeah. And they get special privileges. They have a different relationship with the COs. The COs treat them differently. So that's all.
They get to eat like pizza and stuff like that. That the officers bring in and stuff like that.
They leave. So if they have a big like 5 pieces and there's a couple of slices left, they can have it. But see what I'm saying? They utilize social control in order to manipulate the masses. Because now this individual thinks that they're a little bit more special.
I can explain to you like this. You know how chitlins became a thing for black people to eat?
You gotta explain what chitlins are.
Oh, wait. I'm gonna tell you. Do you know how chitlins became a thing for black people to eat? Well, it became a thing for black people to eat because, like, say you cut up a hog. Chitlins is the intestines of the hog. And chitlins is the part that the white people during slavery days didn't want to eat because it's the intestines. It's where the shit is at.
Right.
Well, black people had to eat what was left over, which was the intestines, the feet, the ears, the nose, and it became a delicacy.
You're a hero.